Actually, I just thought something. Huh? I feel like we usually run it back. All right, we're going to get started in just about 2 minutes. Okay. Okay. All right, we're just logging in one of our members who is remote, and once that connection is made, we will begin. All right, everyone. Good evening. Today is Tuesday, November 18th, 2025, 5:51 p.m., and we are calling this regular meeting of the Wake County Board of Education to order. I want to welcome those of you that are watching at home and those of you that are here in person tonight. Wake County Board of Education meetings are conducted for the purpose of carrying out the official business of our school system. The public is cordially invited to attend board meetings to observe the board as it conducts its official business. Persons who willfully interrupt, disrupt, or cause disturbances at an official meeting may be directed to leave by the presiding officer. Members of the audience should show respect for the speakers by refraining from loud comments or any other disruption. Disruptions by any person or persons of a public meeting will be subject to action in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 143-318.17. All right. So at this point, though we have a few members who are out, we do have a quorum, and we're in the process of having one member join us remotely. Sam Hershey will be participating by WebEx, but we do have the minimum number required to get started. So those of you that are able, please stand and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everyone. So the first item on our agenda is the adoption of our agenda. Board members have seen the proposed agenda, and I'll entertain any motion at this time.
Chair, I move that we adopt the tonight's agenda.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Swanson to adopt tonight's meeting agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Dr. Ng. So because we have a member remote, we will have to conduct all votes by roll call. So we will start over at this end of the table. All in favor of adopting tonight's agenda, members will please say aye after they've been called upon, or aye or nay after you've been called upon. Please register your vote when your name is called. So we'll start with Ms. Gordon.
Aye.
Is Mr. Hershey available yet?
Aye.
We'll have Dr. Ng.
Aye.
Ms. Edmonds.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Vice Chair Swanson.
Aye.
And Ms. Rice.
Aye.
All right, the agenda for tonight's meeting has been adopted. So we will proceed to the first item on the agenda, which is our public comment portion. I know many of you are familiar with this, but for those who are not, or those who are joining or joining us for the first time, we prioritize our public comments first for any students, but there are no students joining us tonight. Oh, sorry, no students joining us to speak tonight. We do have students in the audience. We would then hear from those speaking for items on the agenda, and then items that people are bringing to us that are not on the current agenda. When you are called upon, you will be called in order of sign up after those levels of priority. Only the person speaking at the podium should stand. Everyone else should remain seated while another speaker is speaking. Concerns related to personnel policies or student matters may be addressed through our personnel policies and other applicable school practices. If you have such a concern tonight, please, after you speak, stick around so that someone on our staff can speak with you personally to help address the situation before you leave. The board welcomes all points of view, including criticism directed at substantive ideas, actions, or procedures. However, the board's public comment policy also requires us to maintain decorum. So in order to do that, please address your comments to the Board of Education. Please refrain from personal attacks and insults directed at the board, staff, and especially members of the public. Whether you agree or disagree with another speaker, please know and respect that it is difficult to get up before a body like this. It takes a lot of courage, and we should respect everyone's ideas who comes to the podium. Also remember that we often do have students present or those watching, and so please keep your comments appropriate and substantive and civil. Please remain at the podium during your speaking time. Any materials you wish to share should be brought to our attorney, Mr. Rod Malone, either before you start speaking or after you have finished. That way, the time it takes to give those materials to him will not be taken out of any of your speaking time. Speaking time is 3 minutes. So once you begin speaking, the light on the podium will illuminate. The first light you see will be green to indicate that your time has started. When you have 30 seconds left, the green light will disappear and a yellow light will appear. You'll hear an audible tone. Don't let that rattle you. That's just an alert that you've got 30 seconds left. When your speaking time is up, you'll see a red light and you'll hear a second tone. At that point, I'm going to thank you and I'm going to call the next speaker up to the podium. So please respect the time limits and speak no more than 3 minutes. So our first speaker tonight is Mr. Joseph Deaton, who'll be followed by Irene Godinez. Good evening, Mr. Deaton.
A legal settlement was on the consent agenda in June 2023 for a profoundly disturbing sexual abuse case. I don't know whether any of you on the board at that time read the case file or simply approved the lawyer's settlement. I found the file in the state and county court system. I will not describe the abuse. Suffice it to say it was gross and disgusting and terribly cruel. But we must look at the action and inaction of school administrators and teachers and then ask whether current policies and training are adequate to prevent sexual abuse from happening again. The case started in Durham, where a teacher, according to the file, encouraged middle school girls to think of him as cool and their friend. He allegedly touched girls, multiple girls, inappropriately and made sexual comments to them. He frequently held girls after class. There is no mention of other teachers ever reporting any of this obvious grooming behavior. It's hard to believe that other teachers, especially those in classrooms next door, never saw any of this, especially keeping girls after class. This shows why your policy and training must list all the common grooming behaviors so people have a clear idea what they have to report. You have to drill it into people's heads that they don't need proof of abuse, just reasonable suspicion that inappropriate behavior could lead to abuse. Finally, this teacher grabbed one girl and she ran out of the room screaming. Apparently, no other teachers came to find out what happened. Are we to believe that no one heard anything? The girl told the vice principal, who did nothing, didn't even tell the principal. What part of the mandatory reporting law was she not trained or did not understand? When nothing happened, the girl's mother called the principal. He broke the law by not calling the sheriff and instead conducting his own investigation. Next time, I will review his and HR's response and how this problem migrated here to our district, resulting in this lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Irene Godinez, who's followed by Liz Tatum. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Irene Godinez, and I am the mother of a 9-year-old child in our school system and a concerned citizen. North Carolina calls itself a place where the weak grow strong and the strong grow great. If we take that seriously, then we must confront how heightened ICE and Customs Borders Patrol presence in Wake and surrounding counties is harming our children right now. Research is clear. Toxic stress in childhood, what we call adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, shapes health for a lifetime. And one ACE we too often ignore is the fear of deportation. 1 in 4 children in the U.S. live in mixed status families. Even U.S. citizen children carry the constant fear that a parent may be taken from them. We saw the tragic consequence of this stress earlier this year when 13-year-old Gabby Aparicio Ortega of Durham died by suicide after being bullied about her family's immigration status. Today, this fear is showing up in our attendance records. Families are keeping children home today and likely the rest of this week because they're afraid, and these are safety decisions, not truancy. While I appreciate the mass text message about supporting families and staff amid federal immigration orders today and all of the information that is being shared online, our families need more proactive action by our superintendent and each of you and community members that are listening in. Realistically, families experiencing terror cannot be burdened with proactively advocating for their child to be excused from class via talking points, not when they are protecting themselves from being hunted. Compassion alone isn't enough. We need district-wide preparedness. Every adult in every Wake County Public School System building must be trained. This includes teachers, custodians, bus drivers, office staff, everyone. Staff need clear guidance on what to do if ICE or CBP appears, how to recognize a valid judicial warrant, how to protect student data under FERPA, and how to de-escalate high-stress encounters. Confusion creates risk. Clarity creates safety. So my call to action is threefold. One, to adopt a non-punitive attendance policy that is proactive during this immigration enforcement surge. To provide temporary flexible learning options so students are not forced to choose between safety and education. And to implement a mandatory district-wide training to ensure that every adult in the school knows how to protect students' privacy and their rights and well-being. If North Carolina is truly a state where children grow strong, then we must protect them from preventable trauma, especially when the trauma is created by broken policies and practices that are within our control. Our future depends on it, and I thank y'all very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Liz Tatum, who will be followed by Emily Gaeta.
Good evening. My name is Liz Tatum, and I'm a Wake County resident. My daughter is attending a language immersion magnet program, and she's bilingual at age 7. Her teachers have changed the way she moves through the world. They've given her more than just a second language. They've fed her mind with the richness of their cultures, the traditions they carry, the food, the music, and their stories. Recently, I was journaling about my daughter's education and just wanted to verify the countries some of her past teachers are from. I sent what was meant to be a simple, harmless email asking to confirm their country of origin. Instead of the usual warm, cheerful responses, my email was met with fear and hesitation. These women questioned if the email was actually from me and worried that they were being set up. This opened my eyes and revealed their emotional heaviness in our current climate. The teachers who pour love and stability into my child daily are living with fear and instability. They're here legally, yet they still worry about immigration rules shifting with the possibility of deportation. And when teachers feel unsafe, our children feel it too. It impacts every classroom they touch. So today I ask for 3 things. Please speak up publicly for our immigrant educators. Please protect programs like language immersion. And as a mental health professional myself, I urge you to please offer mental health support to our educators who are fearing for their own safety. Our community is better because they are here. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Emily Gaeta, who will be followed by Maddie Siegel.
Hello, thank you. This is my second time back. Last time I had a little piece of paper that said, "The children must all be ours." I want to continue on that quote and follow up with the past 2 speakers as well. The quote that most of us have heard, but some of us has not, but it is applied to all, is, "The children are always ours, every single one of them." All over the globe, and I'm beginning to The children are always ours, every single one of them, all over the globe, and I am beginning to suspect that whoever is incapable of recognizing this may be incapable of morality. James Baldwin said that. Today, our community in Wake County and abroad had fear and sadness upon us. ICE and Customs Border Control were all over. And fears in schools, fears in workplaces, fears in lives that all of us recognize as a human. As our two presenters before me said, there are different ways and different actions that you can take. Our school, you all, each one of you, need to learn how to be a Fourth Amendment workplace. Our schools need to be Fourth Amendment. So we have practices, there are organizations, there is information out there that I can provide later too, but we need to do this. Even if ICE and Border Patrol never come back, we need to do this now. Some families need to do remote and flexible learning for safety. Flexibility is an act of care during moments of crisis. No child should be labeled in fear for who they are. Protecting students ensures equality across the district. Safety decisions must not become disciplinary records. Fear-based absences reflect trauma, not neglect. How the speaker, two people before me, said there has been a suicide even here because of the fear and the sadness that that young child felt, and we don't need to have that. We have the power, you have the power. Please use all of your power. $7 billion have been allocated to the agency of ICE as part of the Big Beautiful Bill Act, adding $3 billion to ICE's base budget through 2029 and $45 for detention centers, which are privately owned. We have the information and we have the time to do and be. Thank you for existing. And again, all of the children must be ours, and just be human.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Maddie Siegel, who's followed by Richard Bridges. Hello.
Hello. Thank you, Robert, Dr. Taylor, and the school board members for allowing me to speak tonight. I had the privilege of attending the District 7 BAC meeting last week, where I got to hear Lisa Luton talk about the history of Wake County schools and how we're soon going to be celebrating 50 years of integration in our school system, 50 years of diverse perspectives coming together. Lisa shared a story about when she was a child and she came here not knowing any English, and how scary that was. And she's been on my mind today as we've heard about the presence of ICE in our community. I came here tonight to thank you all for the timely communication that came out today in support of immigrant families in our communities. This is the second time you all have done that, where I signed up to speak about something and then you addressed it right before I came, which I really appreciate. It was very well done, and I very much appreciated, especially at the end, the reference to flexibility in the school absence policy, which was referenced by a prior speaker, and the county's willingness to work with families who are afraid to send their children to school. Your quick and compassionate approach that I know must mean the world to many parents who are rightly afraid of being illegally separated from their families is exactly the kind of leadership that I admire and that I know our families in the county are looking for. So thank you. And I just want to encourage you to keep up the good work and continue to support our school counselors, who I know are taking on the brunt of this challenge head on. And also, Lisa's amazing, and I think she was responsible for that communication today, and she deserves a raise. So thank you all.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Richard Bridges, who will be followed by Amanda Paoloni. Good evening.
Good evening. I'd like to lend my voice to support the speakers before me. They're here for a noble cause, and please listen to what they have to say. And Mr. Chair, I support thank you for speaking up on my behalf the last time I was here. But I do want to say that until you're willing to defend the district from the enemies within, you will constantly have a culture of fear, and that needs to be addressed. Now, at some point, every one of you has talked about how you want this district to be the golden standard that other schools emulate. And every one of you has emphasized how student safety is your top priority. And I don't think for a minute that you would hire anybody who says that they would lie to the public, lie to parents, and lie to the police about child abuse. Yet, The district is currently employing multiple superintendents and principals who have either actively covered up child abuse or been complicit in the cover-up of child abuse. Even more incriminating is that the district seems to actively ignore complaints and only takes actions against leaders when news organizations run stories exposing it to the public. This has occurred multiple times in the last 6 or 7 years. Parents are afraid to speak up out of fear of retaliation against their children, and when we do, we're ignored or dismissed. Teachers are afraid to speak up because they know leadership is beyond reprieve. And if they're willing to call me, the guy who showed up evidence in hand, a liar, imagine what they're saying about other families who don't have my resources. Now, in one of the documents I provided the lawyer, you'll see a police report where, with the exception of his name provided, every single word the vice principal told Fuquay PD was a lie about the abuse my child faced in his school. In the other document, you'll see that I provided tonight, you'll see a high-ranking school investigator openly admits they're not independently verifying statements made to them by school employees. If this is the Wake County standard you're striving for, then why are you here? At some point, you're going to have to address the avalanche of inept leadership that has plagued this county, especially in this key element of the district's survival. And I believe that you owe the students, parents, and every single taxpayer in this county an apology for your actions over the last couple of years. And I believe you owe it to families like mine who have been dismissed without a proper investigation and reopen all of the cases conducted by the principal and the investigator in that action. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Amanda Perloni. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, members of the board and community. My name is Amanda Poloni. I was born and raised in Raleigh. I graduated from Wake County Public Schools, and today I am the mother of 3 children in this district, one who is banging away on his Chromebook in the back. Tonight's topic in the committee was student achievement, and I want to speak to something that makes achievement impossible: fear. Last night, while cleaning up after dinner, my 14-year-old 8th grader came downstairs and asked me what she should do if her bestie is approached and or taken by unidentifiable, armed, and masked men. Although I am aware that her best friend is of Mexican descent, I have no clue what her immigration status is or that of her parents. What I do know is she is kind, quick with a smile, encourages my daughter to read, and laughs at her jokes. Surprised and deeply sad, I did my best to simplify the steps so that she would be the most help in that moment. Similar to stop, drop, and roll, she will need to simultaneously manage her own fear and adrenaline and tend to the fire. A marathon of questions followed, including, how do we know these people are ICE? Why aren't they identifying themselves? What happens if they aren't ICE? And how is this legal? She went on to say, that's not happening. There is no way I am letting an unidentified, armed, masked man take my best friend without a fight. And I looked at her and I said, if you enter a physical altercation, you will lose. This is not a conversation about learning. That is a conversation about survival. And children cannot learn when they are in survival mode. Fear destroys the conditions required for student achievement: focus, memory, emotional regulation, and a sense of safety. A major Stanford study shows immigration raids cause a 22% increase in student absences, the academic equivalent of every student missing an extra day and a half of instruction over half of a school year. And in North Carolina this week, Charlotte-Mecklenburg saw 30,000 absences in a single day after a federal operation. Research also shows that increased immigration enforcement leads to declines in test scores, not only for immigrant students, but for U.S. students born as well, because fear spreads through classrooms. Pediatricians call this toxic stress. It shuts down the parts of the brain responsible for learning, memory, focus, and executive function. I appreciate that the board has already taken steps to protect students during enforcement actions. As a parent, I am grateful. After hearing from my daughter
And
today.
that's your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our public comment period for tonight, and we'll move to the next item on our agenda. Thank you all who did come out to speak tonight. We really appreciate you coming out and sharing your opinions with us. So tonight, the next item is our consent agenda, and board members have had an opportunity to review the items on the consent agenda in advance, and so what I'd like to do is entertain a motion regarding adoption of the consent agenda.
Chair, I move the adoption of the consent agenda.
We have a motion for Vice Chair Swanson to adopt the items on the consent agenda. Is there a second? We have a second from Ms. Rice. All right, so again, we will have a roll call vote. We'll start with Ms. Gordon,
Aye.
Mr. Hershey,
Aye.
Dr. Ng,
Aye.
Ms. Edmonds.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Vice Chair Swanson.
Aye.
And Ms. Rice. All right, the items on the consent agenda have been adopted. So we'll move at this time to our action items. And the first item is under Finance, adoption of the 2025-2026 Annual Balanced Budget Resolution. We'll hear first from Mr. Nieder.
Thank you, and good evening, Chair Haggerty, members of the board, and Superintendent Taylor. At your Finance Committee meeting a few weeks ago on November 4th, staff reviewed recommendations for reconciling the board's proposed budget to the currently known state and local budgets. Tonight, we are asking for your formal approval of the 2025-2026 budget reconciliation recommendations and request your consideration of approval of a formal budget resolution for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. To provide a brief recap of the budget development process thus far the board has gone through, on May 6th, the board approved its proposed 25-26 operating budget, which included a request of the county commissioners for an increase in county appropriation in the amount of $40.3 million. On May 6th, the board also approved waiving Board Policy 8101. Specifically, the board waived the component of Policy 8101 limiting the investment of fund balance to no more than 50% of the available budget into a future year's budget. And the board's proposed budget for the 25-26 year included an investment of 54%, just over that threshold of the available balance. Waiver of this policy has taken place many times in the past based upon staff recommendations. On June 2nd, the county commissioners approved their final 25-26 operating budget, which did include the full $40.3 million increase of the Board of Education increase to the county appropriation. And on June 24th, the board approved an interim budget resolution for 25-26 to allow it to continue to operate once the new fiscal year began, which did on July 1st of this calendar year, even though a state budget had not been finalized yet. In late June, the state legislature approved House Bill 125, and Governor Stein signed that into law on August 6th. House Bill 125, we shared more details with you about it at your Finance Committee meeting a couple weeks ago. It included some specific budget provisions for the 25-26 year, but it was not a comprehensive state budget for the biennium or even for the current fiscal year. Effectively, it was a mini budget bill. And as a reminder of what we presented to you on November 4th at your Finance Committee meeting, there were no legislative compensation changes for staff included within that House Bill 125, albeit House Bill 125 did provide for a step increase for certified instructional staff and for assistant principals that are also paid off that base certified staff schedule. At your November 4th Finance Committee meeting, we made recommended adjustments to the proposed board budget to align it with the final county appropriation and the state's mini budget bill, and shared that we did not anticipate the legislature approving a comprehensive budget for the current year or for the biennium. That was at that point. We're a couple weeks later now. We still do not anticipate that approval. So as such, tonight, we're requesting the board approve a balanced budget resolution for the 25-26 fiscal year based upon the board's proposed operating budget for this year and with the adjustments recommended at your Finance Committee meeting 2 weeks ago. Should the state subsequently approve a comprehensive budget for the 25-26 year, staff will return to the board with recommended adjustments to the board's approved budget resolution. And as the board, I believe, is aware, the budget is a fluid, living thing over time, with adjustments being reported to the board on a monthly basis. With that, I'll now ask the board's consideration of approval of its formal 25-26 balanced budget resolution. We're glad to answer any questions, and I've got Senior Director of Budget, Ms. Kimsey, here as well, if you get technical on us.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Nader. So staff has requested approval of the annual budget resolution for fiscal year 2025-2026 in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 115C. Vice Chair Swanson?
Sure. Chair, I move for the adoption of the 25-26 annual balanced budget resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion from Vice Chair Swanson with a second from Ms. Edmonds. At this point, are there any questions or comments about the budget? Vice Chair Swanson.
So, Chair, I do have a couple of comments. As always, I want to thank Chief Nieder and Ms. Kimsey and their entire team that balances and deals with this $2 billion operating budget. That is fluent, and as we are currently in this stale process because of the state legislator choosing, it's by choice. I want the public to understand it's a choice that they have made not to pass their budget that is impacting not just Wake County, but hundreds of thousands of public school students across this state. And so I want to thank you all for doing the heavy work, and not only just with this, but also being proactive in moving forward with next year's budget on top of this. And so I do hope that our lawmakers do come back and fulfill their constitutional duty like all of us at this table has done. Our job as board members is to pass policy and to pass a balanced budget by June 15th to get to the county commissioners. We've done our job. We've advocated to our lawmakers, and I think we are seeing if we are truly serious about moving the needle on student performance, on moving the needle on testing and learning and ensuring that that takes place, the General Assembly that is located at 16 West Jones Street has to do their damn job. And that is what I'm going to put, and so that is that.
Thank you, Vice Chair Swanson. Ms. Edmonds.
I couldn't have said it better, Vice Chair Swanson, and I'll add for anybody that may not be aware, North Carolina now has the distinction of being the only state in the country that has yet to pass a state budget. That's not the kind of outlier I would like North Carolina to be, and I know many of our residents feel the same way.
Thank you. Further comment? Any questions? Dr. Ng?
Yes, mine will not have any expletives in it. I just wanted to, thank you for doing all this. I know it's never easy to present this to us. I echo some of the things that have been mentioned, but I also pointed out that there's a House and there's a Senate, and the House has been more than willing to listen to our plight and all across the state, and it was a bipartisan group of legislators in the House that did make a good conscious effort to propose a budget, but it's hung up in the Senate. So I just wanted to clarify that, and, if we have to have I wish we could have a bipartisan approach in the Senate as well, and that's something that I want to, request people to speak to the legislators, specifically in the Senate, to do that. But of course, the senators who represent the Wake County are all, on our side for public education. And so, maybe you have friends and neighbors, in other parts of the state that can influence their respective senators. Thank you.
Thank you. And, Dr. Ng, just to your point, we had 4 of us went to the North Carolina School Boards Association conference last week and got to meet with colleagues from all over the state, rural counties, urban counties, blue counties, red counties. And, even in those most rural and reddest counties, there was a frustration. And there were people that were ready for a budget to be put forward. And the feedback that we got was it wasn't even necessarily even individual senators, because many individual senators wanted to move forward and vote, but a lot of this was being held up by leadership. So again, to your point, as something we've all advocated for around the table, if people will call their legislators, whether in Wake County, if they've got family outside of Wake County, please let them know how important this is so that we can move something forward. Specific to our budget, are there any more comments, any questions about our annual budget resolution? I wasn't able to check. Did Mr. Hershey have anything? All right. Well, in that case, sensing a readiness to vote, all in favor of approving the annual budget resolution for fiscal year 25-26. We'll go in order and roll call vote. We'll start with Ms. Gordon.
Aye.
Mr. Hershey.
Aye.
Dr. Ng.
Aye.
Ms. Edmonds.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Vice Chair Swanson.
Aye.
And Ms. Rice. All right. Mr. Nader, the resolution has passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our action agenda for tonight is the 2026-2027 WCPSS School Enrollment Plan. This is the plan that we discussed and were briefed on in our work session, and we welcome back Ms. Pulliam and Mr. Carrozza for any additional discussion or questions that we might have before adopting a final plan.
Chair Higgity, Vice Chair Swanson, Superintendent Taylor, members of the board, again, I thank you for this opportunity, and I'm here to present the 2026-27 school enrollment plan. I'd like to begin by expressing my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who played a role in shaping this year's enrollment plan. It has been a complex and collaborative process and could not have been completed without the support, insights, and expertise of many individuals and teams. First, I extend my thanks to you, the Board of Education, and of course our senior leadership team. Your guidance and support have been invaluable as we worked to draft, review, revise, and finalize the plan. I would also like to recognize the collaborative contributions of our whole school choice planning and assignment team. In particular, my gratitude goes to Eric Chansey and Louis Imbrico in our Office of Student Assignment, as well as to Rob Sywek and his entire team in the Geospatial Analytics Department. Your thoughtful reflections, encouragement, and partnership throughout this process have been essential to its success. I also extend my gratitude to Dave Burnett and Elizabeth Sharp from our Facilities Design and Construction team. Their collaboration, you're going to hear me say that word a lot, ensured that we had the most accurate and up-to-date information needed to align our planning efforts with school readiness milestones being kept diligently in mind. A special thanks, of course, to our Transportation Department, as that's an area that we're always aiming to improve, in particular Bonnie Sluter and Joy Mylan, and of course, Bob Schneidemiller before he retired, for their collaboration in refining our recommendations aimed at improving our transportation efficiency. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't thank Sandy Honeycutt and Carrie Fuller in our Technology Services Department for ensuring that all of our student information systems are ready to support the implementation upon your approval. There's countless numbers of others that we can thank, but I also want to make sure that I thank our principals and our area superintendents, particularly those that are in the impacted areas. Their insight, their meaningful and thoughtful approach to helping us figure out a way to develop this year's plan, making sure that we are considering not only the implications for the current schools and the new schools, but also the community as a whole, and thinking about staffing needs as well as overall school operations. This year, again, we hosted one of our open houses, and I just want to thank I can't count them out by name, but all of the staff that showed up to help us, and we brought together a number of departments to support our families. These dedicated team members provided reassurance and vital information as our families shared their questions, concerns, and uncertainties about the transition to a new school under the assignment plan. Their collective efforts allowed our families to leave that event feeling heard and equipped with the resources they need to navigate the changes for their family. I'm personally grateful for the entire enrollment and transfer teams, most specifically Zulema, Haley, April, Ashley, Jimmy, Carrie, Sandra, and Sarah in my office for their dedication, their efforts to center the needs of our schools and elevate the voices of our families throughout this process really have been unwavering, and their willingness to provide that help and support at every turn has been extraordinary. And of course, a special recognition to Corali Tornow. She's in our communications department. Her invaluable support in brainstorming our public engagement strategies, crafting clear, timely messages for families, community members, principals, and internal partners has been instrumental to the success of getting to this point with the plan. Corali's dedication to ensuring transparency and accessibility in our communication efforts has played a crucial role in fostering meaningful dialogue and participation throughout the process. And of course, he did it to me earlier, so I'm going to do it to him. A special thank you to Assistant Superintendent Carrozza and, of course, Chief Strickland for their consistent support and encouragement. They really do enable me to do my best work, and our entire team to do our best work. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank our families, our staff, and our community members. They have been participating nonstop for several years and will continue to do so. Their honest, thoughtful engagement throughout the process really helped to shape this year's plan and previous plans, and will continue to shape future plans. Whether they participated in pre-draft discussions or provided feedback after the plan was published, that participation has been instrumental in getting us to the final recommendation. Now back to the 26-27 enrollment plan. With one new school set to open in 2026-27, Hilltop Needmore Elementary, this year's plan addresses multiple priorities. They include relieving capped and overcrowded schools, optimizing the use of our underutilized schools, addressing cohort continuity issues, and continuing our commitment to enhancing transportation efficiency. The plan incorporates base assignment changes and calendar application adjustments to meet these goals, along with generous stability provisions to support our impacted families and promote continuity in their school assignments. The development of this year's enrollment plan actually began in earnest in March of 2023. We hosted a series of in-person engagement sessions with families to gain deeper insight into the perspectives of communities projected to be impacted by the opening of this new school as well as others, particularly in high-growth areas. These efforts continued into the spring of 24 and 25 with additional sessions designed to refine the feedback gathered and provide even greater clarity on the concerns and priorities of these communities. All of the rounds of engagement sessions were also followed by focus groups or AI-supported interviews to gain a deeper understanding of those specific factors that surfaced during these efforts. As the planning process advanced to an initial discussion with you, the board, during a work session on May 6th, we were able to highlight the preliminary insights and considerations that needed to be reviewed. In this year, additional information related to crowding, capping, and overflow impacts on schools was asked by the board, and we were able to share that information with you during work sessions on May 20th and June 3rd. A summary of the feedback that had been collected to that point during the earlier engagement sessions was shared with you at a subsequent work session on June 24th, and the feedback gathered from those sessions, along with all of the input from the May 26th, 20th, and June 3rd work sessions, along with the district-wide analysis of needs, informed the development of the initial draft of the plan. The initial draft was reviewed and presented to you on September 2nd at a board work session. After that meeting, staff launched a thought exchange and hosted 3 virtual information sessions, as well as an open house to engage our community in sharing their thoughts, comments, and questions regarding the recommendations included in the initial draft. A review of the feedback received along with a revision to the draft was presented at the October 21st board work session. After that meeting, staff launched an additional thought exchange and hosted one virtual public information session to again engage our community in sharing their thoughts, comments, and questions regarding the revised draft. Additionally, you held a public hearing on October 21st to solicit and capture feedback from the community regarding the plan. The plan was most recently reviewed and presented as a final draft earlier today during your work session. And official totals are coming out, so the total number of students projected to be reassigned is just over 1,450, which is less than 1% of our current population of students. 74% of those are going to be eligible for a stability transfer, which does not include their younger siblings. When given final board approval, the final draft of the plan will be implemented for the 26-27 school year. Families directly impacted by the plan will be contacted as soon as possible with specific instructions regarding the process or eligibility for requesting a stability transfer. And stability requests from eligible students that are submitted during the designated window will be approved. These transfers will be valid through the last grade of the school, which would be 5th, 8th, or 12th grade respectively. And so tonight, we humbly request the board's approval of the 26-27 enrollment plan as presented during the work session held earlier today.
Thank you, Ms. Pulliam. So before we get too far into any discussion, questions, or debate, I'd like to start by asking if we have a motion. Vice Chair Swanson?
Chair, I move for the adoption of the student enrollment plan for the 26-27 school year.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Swanson and a second from Ms. Edmonds. So, again, we did discuss the matter in work session, and now it's here before us for official action. You know, I do want to take a minute, again, just as we're extending kudos to thank Ms. Pulliam and all of the staff for all of the work that goes into an assignment plan. Consideration of a reassignment plan is something that, as a board, we do. I say reassignment, it's an enrollment plan, but every year the focus is reassignment, is something that we as a board do every year. Some other districts do not do this as often. But the philosophy is that we would rather move as few people as possible each year rather than wait a couple of years and then move a large portion of the district. You know, we've had to reassign students every year since I've been on the board. We've had to reassign students every year since my son began kindergarten back in 2011. We have had unusual assignment plans ever since I was enrolled as a student in WCPSS in the 1970s. So, you know, this really shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, but that doesn't always make it easier. But when we open new schools, we need to find the families that will populate, that'll establish the traditions, that'll be the pioneers and the trendsetters and really create that school community. And it's exciting to see a new school opening in our county. And then as neighborhoods change, as more people move in, as some people age out, as some families, you know, age and they stay in their houses, but they no longer have students, our school populations change. And so, you know, this is, you know, sometimes disruptive, but a necessary function that is put on all of us. I want to say that the plan does address overcrowding concerns that we've talked about throughout the year. And many of you might remember hearing from many families at some under-enrolled schools about questions of being an overflow school and the instability about whether or not, because they had so few students at the beginning of the year, they would get the allotments they would need to adequately fund the teachers they would need when all of the overflow students would come. So I like how this plan helps create more stability through the district, through the regular assignments, rather than having to rely more on, you know, kind of the unpredictable nature of capping and moving students, you know, during the year when they enter the district to go someplace other than, you know, the neighborhood that they moved into. One thing that I also want to highlight in this plan for the changes we've made to existing schools is one of the things that I always judge a plan on that I look at is calendar alignment. and what can we do to minimize misalignment for families? Because it is a burden when you have children on one calendar and another child on a different calendar. I know in Western Wake, especially the districts that I represent, and I think Vice Chair Swanson and the District 8 representative have a lot of multi-track year-round schools already. There's not a lot of year-round options. And those that do exist are almost all at or over capacity. So how do you avoid that disruption? And I wanted to bring up the stability rules that you're offering this year. When I joined the board, we didn't really have stability rules. If anything, it might have been for just that final grade, right? Just the rising fifth graders, just the rising eighth graders, or if it was a high school to another high school, we wouldn't move the seniors. But everybody else would have to relocate. What we've proposed this year with current students rising into seventh or eighth grade for the middle school changes, and students rising into first through fifth grade at elementary really is, the kind of most far-reaching plan we've ever offered to help those families avoid that disruption and stay at their existing school if they're able to provide their own transportation. So, while there have been some families that will be reassigned to new schools, keeping this option open, especially for so many families, is again a real change that we haven't offered to this degree in the past. But I think that those families will benefit from this, and it really does give a lot more choice into helping them make the best decision as to which school they'd like to send their children. So the only question that I had about the plan was specific to the calendar application changes, talking about misalignment. And in one of the changes, we take students who live in the Mills Park base, which is traditional, and we would reassign them to Salem as a multi-track year-round. And again, they would be getting a generous stability rule, so rising seventh and eighth graders could remain at the school. And you've also provided a proposed calendar option school, which is something that's not always done. I saw that the proposed calendar application school was Apex. And I was curious about that because I know there's a lot of middle schools in the Cary area that have greater capacity, a greater need for students. I think of West Cary and East Cary. I think of even, Davis Drive as maybe having more capacity than Apex, especially with a lot of the growth around Apex. And I just wanted to hear from you about why Apex was selected. I'm very appreciative that there's a calendar application school. I just wanted to know a little bit about why that school.
In this particular instance, thinking about what the community has said to us, not only about calendar alignment, but cohort continuity, all of the current student body at Salem Middle applies to Apex Middle, as does the elementary group that they would be joining at Turner Creek. So that would create a community cohort that's going to Balcom Elementary and Apex Middle, and they would have that cohort continuity in that space, so that as a neighborhood, they wouldn't be split from those peers, and if they chose to come back to those core schools on multi-track year-round, they'd still be with the same group of students. That does not preclude these families from asking for a different traditional option. For example, one of the examples you gave was East Cary. It is one of our magnet schools, so they are certainly more than welcome to ask for it during the magnet application period, and if they'd be willing to provide their own transportation to a school like West Cary, we certainly would not, have any opposition to trying to help them with that alignment. We just didn't want to create calendar discontinuity or cohort discontinuity when that's clearly what everyone's been asking us to stop doing.
And just to clarify, by cohort, you're just talking about the same kids that they've been going to school with
Right.
in their other grades, keeping
Yes.
them all together.
Yes.
Okay,
And
great.
the community, so that whole neighborhood or the sets of neighborhoods that would start mixing together would all be going to the same sets of schools.
Okay, perfect. Well, that answers my question. Thank you. Ms. Edmonds?
Thank
If I may,
you.
there's a little more to it too, just from a because we know Parkside Middle's coming onto that northern area as well. We know we're going to be doing a lot of shifting, and some of that capacity that you think is there is going to be absorbed. Because if remember Mills Park, this still is not addressing all of their overcrowding.
Right.
Alston Ridge is still experiencing overcrowding. So any of the available seats sort of north of this region, we're going to need during that reshuffling.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Edmonds?
Thanks. I wanted to echo what Mr. Carrozza said earlier today. You really are exceptional at the work that you do. And I know we can't make everybody happy, and I know there's lots of folks that are not in the Susan Pulliam fan club. We understand that, because this is tough on families when they're, being asked to do something they don't want to do. So we understand that. But thank you, because the process is vastly improved than the way that it used to be. So well done. And then I wanted to know if you had an answer from my question earlier about Sutherland. Thank you.
So the area was assigned to White Oak Elementary in 2016, so this will be their 10th year in the school, so that's a relatively stable assignment. And then Green Level High School opened in 2017, and the Mills Park alignment was done in that same time frame to get them all together. So this basically, keep in mind in this area, we're not changing their high school assignment because we don't feel that that's necessary, and there is a strong enough group coming from Salem Middle into Green Level that they won't be isolated. So that's why we only had the elementary and middle school recommendations.
Thank you. Vice Chair Swanson?
Excuse me. Yes, I just want to also say thank you, and also to the communities that provided so much input and feedback and that email to all of us. And I think it was raised earlier that this is something that we don't like to do. But due to growth that we're seeing, due to development that's happening, this is what we have to do. K-3 legislation limits how many students are able to attend elementary schools from kindergarten, first grade, second, and to third, which there was a plan in our legislative agenda that asked for waivers for those schools. So we did not have to do this. So we've heard what the community is saying, but again, it's tied up on Jones Street in one chamber that Dr. Ng referenced. So I also want to just thank those families, and also to share that that's why we started having these roundtables with local municipalities, so therefore they can understand when the growth is happening in their particular towns and communities. This is the impact that we're facing. So therefore, all of us are aligned on the same page. So we've had one successful roundtable, and there will be others coming, so we can all get on the same page of this. And when we looked at the minutes about this back in 2009-ish, when former Representative Gill was the chair, this was the topic that was being discussed in 2009-ish, growth. So this is not a new piece, and I know the chair has referenced that. And I will say that any school that these families are being reassigned to, teaching and learning is still going to take place. There is a culture of excellence in all of those schools, and this gives those families an opportunity to really help shape and define what they want to see. And so despite what these grades may look like, that is not an accurate description of what takes place in these schools daily. And so I think it's a disservice when folks share those things, when they're not seeing what teachers are doing every single day to this. And so my question, Ms. Pulliam, is, can you explain to the public when can they start applying for those stability rules? When can they start the transferring process? And I'll stop there.
Absolutely. If all goes well tonight and we get a successful approval, we're set to go. We'll start getting all of our updates done by the end of this week, so that by Tuesday of next week, we feel confident we can open the stability transfer window. We'll submit emails out, or send emails out to the families, and as I mentioned in work session, we'll also send them to their current principals, so they'll get double communication from both sides, from their school as well as from us, letting them know that it's open. We're going to add 2 days to the window because of the Thanksgiving holiday, so we won't technically count Tuesday and Wednesday of next week as business days, and we'll keep it open for a full 10 days after that, all the way through that Friday. I'm going to miss it. It's December 12th or 13th. And so they'll have that time, and we'll send them multiple notifications, and as long as they submit them in that window, they are guaranteed to be approved. If they have a kindergartner that they've already pre-registered, they'll be able to go ahead and do that one at this time. I do want to ease concerns on that front. If you have a rising kindergartner that is eligible, but you didn't have a chance to pre-register, that's fine. We can handle them in the March transfer window.
So if I can follow up to that, Chair.
Go ahead.
If a person applies, if families apply during that time frame, they are guaranteed essentially to stay at the school that they are currently.
Yes.
Yes. Just wanted to make sure that they could.
Through the terminal grade. So
yes.
At an elementary school, that'd be 5th. At our middle schools, that's 8th. And at our high schools, that's 12th. And those younger siblings get that same length of time as well.
Great. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Ng.
I want to know what the dues are for the Susan Pulliam fan club.
$0.
No, seriously. You mentioned about transportation efficiency, and it's not just about numbers. It's about, people, kids, and can you speak to it? I mean, just playing devil's advocate, and what if the stability rule, transfer would provide transportation?
Sure.
How
This has
would
been
that
asked for us the last
impact our- yeah.
couple of years. Candidly, to be perfectly honest, it would be a bit of a false promise because it would extend the length of so many routes that families would feel like it really wasn't good bus service because we still have a limited number of drivers, we have a limited number of routes. We've expanded about as big as we can get with our routes and service. So if we were to try to attempt to include transportation with our stability transfers, that means all routes would be much longer in length and time, and candidly, some probably couldn't run. We might even have to drop transportation for a neighborhood school or it would just put a lot of negative impacts on some of our programs that are going really well. And so I don't know how to put a dollar amount on it or quantify it, and maybe, I'm not sure if someone else can speak to it more articulately, but it's just physically not possible with the generous stability rules we've offered. We would have to go back to much more restrictive ones like Mr. Hegarty was referring to, where it might be it's one grade for 1 year. We wouldn't be able to be as generous and let families stay through the 5th grade or through the 8th grade or through the 12th grade.
Thank you so much for explaining that. I just want to make sure that the public understands that the difficult situation that we are faced with. Given that we're expanding the stability rules, that is one thing that we are, that parents providing transportation is going to have to be the case. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any other questions? Ms. Gordon?
I'll keep mine quick. I just want to say thank you to the complete team. I was extremely impressed by the intentionality around the public engagement, and it speaks volumes to what you and the team do, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anything for Mr. Hershey? All right. Well, sensing a readiness to vote, I'll entertain a motion, or we have a motion, and that has been properly seconded. So we'll move to an immediate vote. We'll start with Ms. Gordon. This is a vote on adoption of the 26-27 student enrollment plan.
Aye.
Mr. Hershey?
Aye.
Dr. Eng?
Aye.
Ms. Edmonds?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Vice Chair Swanson?
Aye.
And Ms. Rice? All right, Ms. Pulliam, the plan has passed and been adopted. Thank you.
Thank you. Messages will start going out tonight.
All right, thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is we have 2 policy items, Board Policy 7920 and 7921. Dr. Mutillo is here? All right.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight I am bringing 2 policies on action for board approval. I will present each individually, but just wanted to start with a couple comments because the policies are so similar, and there's a change we're proposing not in your materials that applies to both. So the board did consider both of these policies during the October 28th policy committee meeting. The policies were moved to action due to the proposed language changes during that meeting. In the drafts that you see, we've incorporated most of those policy changes, but I do want to note a change in both policies that we want to add for your consideration this evening. In response to a suggestion made by Board Chair Hegarty during the policy committee, staff proposes striking a phrase in section A3 of both policies, and that phrase reads, quote, "that is brought about by the decline in enrollment or by other actions or events," end quote. So the first part of that paragraph then would read under financial exigency would be, quote, "financial exigency means any significant decline in the board's financial resources that compels a reduction in the school system's current operational budget," end quote. So staff agrees with Board Chair Hegarty that removing that would make that part of the language more concise and more clear. So I'll now present each policy separately now that I've let you know about the change we're proposing for both of them. So policy 7920, reduction in force for contract employees. The black text, just as a reminder, is from the School Boards Association policy, with the blue text showing either inserts from our current policy 3430 or changes to make the provisions in both 7920 and 7921 parallel, and also to incorporate the changes from the October 28 Policy Committee meeting. There was alignment on these changes during the Policy Committee. Once adopted, this policy would replace Policy 3430 in the old manual. So unless there's questions or changes, tonight we are requesting the board's approval of the first reading of Policy 7920.
All right, thank you, Dr. Matillo. Is there a motion regarding the policies?
Yes, Chair Haggerty, I'd like to make a motion to approve 7920 on first reading.
We have a motion from Ms. Edmonds to adopt the policy on first reading. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Dr. Ing. Are there any questions or comments about the policy? Ms. Edmonds?
Thank you. This is for 7920 and 7921. I did go back and review the meeting from October just to listen again to our comments and discussion. And it was basically just that there were several edits that we felt, that's why we put it on action instead of consent. And I just wanted to express my thanks to staff for wordsmithing and taking all that into consideration to get us here tonight. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions, further comment? Vice Chair Swanson.
Thank you. It seems like policy always conflicts with the standing work meeting that I have, so I was able to pay attention and listen to the discussion. But I'm concerned that, given the climate that we're in and the declines that we're seeing with funding with public education, do you perceive that this could signal, let me choose my words a little bit better. Do we think this could impact our recruitment of teachers? Given the fact that this policy is what the policy is saying, that's a concern that I have, and I'm curious to know what you all think on that or have thought through different plans about that.
Sure. Thank you for the question, Vice Chair Swanson. I thought that might come up at some point. This is, that we might be signaling something, or there might be a concern that a reduction force is pending, but it was just part of the, the standing schedule, and we're getting toward the end of our human resources policies to migrate, so we wanted to bring it forward. We have been able to, I don't even want to say it out loud, but we've not had to exercise these policies, even with some of the reductions that have occurred. We've been able to move staff around and find positions, so I don't think this would be impede our recruitment. We are always committed to first finding positions for folks that might be employed, even if we do have to shift things around. So not expecting that it would hurt recruitment, and we're still, full speed ahead with recruiting even for this school year.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Any further questions or further comment? If there's not, we're ready to vote. All in favor of adoption of this policy on first reading, we'll go around the table. Please vote aye in favor, nay if you are opposed. Ms. Gordon?
Aye.
Mr. Hershey? Aye. Dr. Ing?
Aye.
Ms. Edmonds?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Vice Chair Swanson?
Aye.
And Ms. Rice?
Aye.
All right, the policy passes on first reading. Thank you.
Thank you. So policy 7921, reduction in force for employees without contract. Again, the black text is our current policy 4430, and then in blue, provisions from the School Board Association policy, as well as our staff changes, making policies parallel where we could, based on comments in the October 28th policy meeting. And again, when adopted, this policy would replace 4430 in the old manual, and we are requesting the board's approval of first reading of policy 7921 this evening.
All right, is there a motion regarding policy 7921?
Motion to approve 7921 on first reading.
We have a motion to approve the policy on first reading by Ms. Evans. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Dr. Ing. All right, any comments or discussion about this policy? All right, Vice Chair Swanson.
So I'm going to raise the same question, given the fact that I know it's easier to move teachers who are certified, classified positions. I think it's limited of where we can shift staff. So can you ease my concern, because for this one, I'm not too sure I can vote for this one, just because of those concerns, but I just want to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, of course, and good point with, teachers and folks on contracts. Just a reminder too that these are existing policies that we're just migrating over. But again, I think I'd use an example probably to answer your question the best. We did have to eliminate the building sub positions last year, which was a position at every school, and we were able to find places for those folks that wanted to either go back to the daily sub pool or some served as instructional assistants. So we still make every effort we can that if we do get in the unfortunate situation where we have to make position cuts, we want to take care of our employees the best we can and find places for everyone, whether they're certified, non-certified, have contracts, not contracts. So it is always our priority to take care of the employees that we have.
Any further questions or further comment? Dr. Matillo, I did want to just get clarification. You mentioned the amendment that we talked about at the beginning, again, some of that wordsmithing. And so I just want to make sure that I'm clear on it. In policy 7921, can you just read back that amended language to me? I'm sorry, I said 7921.
So yes, for 7921, again, the language we were wanting to strike is that is brought about by the decline in enrollment or by other actions or events.
So right now it would just be school reorganization is defined as closing, consolidation, and then proceeding from there?
So, yeah, so
Item
it's
number
three. It would
Under
then.
exigency.
Yeah, so then it would read, financial exigency means any significant decline in the board's financial resources that compels a reduction in the school system's current operational.
Okay, the version I had still had it, so I just wanted to double check.
Yes, that's what we're proposing to strike, and you'll see that when it comes on consent as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. All right, that's the only question that I had. Any other questions or comment? If not, if there's a readiness to vote, we'll proceed as before. All in favor of adoption of policy 7921 will say aye. Those opposed will say nay when you are called upon. I will start with Ms. Gordon.
Aye.
Mr. Hershey.
Aye.
Dr. Ing.
Aye.
Ms. Edmonds.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Vice Chair Swanson.
Aye.
And Ms. Rice. All right, policy has passed on first reading. Thank you, Dr. Mutillo.
Thank you all.
All right. At this time, we were considering something regarding the agenda. Vice Chair Swanson?
Yes, Chair, I would make a motion, looking at Ms. Allen to make sure that she's ready, because I gave her a heads up, that we would continue with the strategic plan updates. So adding that to the last part of the agenda, which would be item, yes, adding item 2 to the board agenda under the information items continued section.
All right, and what this would be, if I understand you, is just simply finishing the presentation that we started, but that we had to cut short because we ran out of time. So is there a second for the motion? Second. We have a second for Ms. Edmonds? All right. Is there any debate, or are we ready for a vote? Okay. Ms. Rice?
Yes, I do. I want to ask how much time we want to devote to this, because at our board sessions, we have about 2 hours of time or whatever, so that staff doesn't feel rushed and it's late, and so we ask our questions and get to we end. So, I mean, I know it's still early, but I'm just...
No, that is a perfectly valid question. We had time that we thought would be sufficient for this topic during the work session, but because of some delays in getting started, because of the previous committee going long, and then the time to set up and break down the room, we didn't have adequate time for the whole presentation. I'll ask Dr. Robinson, does he have an estimate on what he thinks? Again, we never know because you never know about the questions, but do you have an estimate on how long the continued information item would last?
Absolutely. I think that Mr. Strickland's presentation will take 10 minutes. Chief Butler, how long would your presentation take? 5 to 10 minutes? 10 minutes. Dr. Matillo, how long would yours take, sir? 5 or less. It's interesting, 5 or less. So it's going to be dependent upon the questions.
And
And
then,
so,
right, and then, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Rice.
And then that's really the primary, I think staff really does a very succinct job of what they have. My question is with us, what time will you allow us to ask our questions and do, because I don't want to feel rushed and I don't want to feel like someone's cutting me off with getting clarity or what I might need to say or ask in reference to these important topics that we're dealing with, operational effectiveness. I do want us to take that in consideration, because I will take offense when people like to pull my coattail.
Well, I will
area,
say
so
that
I'm
by
just
having this
asking.
on the board meeting, there is no time, there's no meeting after this, unlike the previous meetings where we had a definite stop and start time. So we should have as much time as is required. Of course, it is at the subject of the rest of the board and the ability to vote to move on. So, all right, any further questions? All right, then we'll proceed to a vote for amending the agenda. We'll start with Ms. Gordon.
Aye.
Mr. Hershey? Aye. Dr. Ing?
Nay.
Ms. Edmonds?
Aye.
Chair will vote aye. Vice Chair Swanson?
Yes.
And Ms. Rice?
Nay.
All right, by a vote of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 2, the motion passes, and the agenda has been amended, and we'll proceed with the remainder of the presentation. Thank you, Dr. Robinson.
thank you, sir. So next up, we will have Dr. Matillo, who will talk about hiring and recruiting and all those great things. We're going to make sure that we get the presentation up and get you the clicker.
All right, good evening again. Our portion is really pretty short. It's only 2 slides because we provided a more detailed staffing update during your September meeting, but Dr. Robinson and Dr. Alfred Keith didn't want us to feel left out of the strat plan update, so we're here with a couple slides for you this evening as well. The first slide, you will see, you saw much of that data during the September meeting, but we have added a November 2025 column to each of those areas just to show you that hiring still does continue as the year progresses into the school year. So as an example, you can see we are up 86 new hires to a total of 1,368 new hires since July 1. And then we've added another 72 return hires. These are folks who have left our district and decided to come back. And overall, we've now increased our total hires by 539 to a total of 3,777. So that's just to give you some context of the volume of hiring that we're doing. The next slide, we did not update this slide. This is the same slide that you saw in September because our vacancy rates really change day by day, and we try to use September as our official reporting and benchmarking for subsequent years. So I did keep the data the same on that slide. Did want to share a couple updates verbally with you, however. When we looked at our teacher vacancies for the last board meeting, we dropped by 25 overall teaching positions, and our fill rate was 98.96 at that time. I really wanted to round up to 99, but we're going to get there without rounding up at some point. So we do continue to see some improvements there. And then with our special ed teaching positions, they continue to be our greatest and most persistent need. We did see vacancies drop by another 13 positions, so that is trending positively. And you heard from both Christy Dye as well as Crystal Gregory a lot of the strategies that we were already working on to try to improve these rates. But there are a couple things that team continues to work on. I did want to take a moment to share those with you this evening. I continue to be thankful and impressed with their leadership, that we continue to explore strategies to improve these vacancy rates and fill them with high-quality staff. So one thing that we have done since that presentation is we've partnered with NC State in their Wolf Track program, TRAC, where our instructional assistants with a bachelor's degree can now enter their Master's of Teaching program while continuing to work with Wake County. And these areas of licensure are elementary ed, multilingual ed, as well as special ed. And today at 6 o'clock, I didn't get the update, but there was an interest meeting for that program, and 83 of our employees expressed interest in that. So that, again, that is another good strategy, another step toward really increasing our pipeline. Our second partnership, again, that we've worked on since that last meeting is with North Carolina Central University, and they have a program that focuses specifically on special education. And we had 61 attend a virtual interest meeting. We've had 19 apply already, and have seen 9 acceptances already. So, and those acceptances are still rolling, so we're hoping to see more of those. So now that's 9 folks that are in that pipeline for special education with NC Central. Our goal for that program in its first year was 10 to 12 participants, so we're right on track to meet or exceed that target. So again, just proud of that team for continuing to really work on the pipelines that do lead to teacher licensure to help fill not only general ed positions, but our most persistent positions with our special education teachers. So wanted to take a moment to highlight the efforts of our recruitment team, and we will continue to explore these partnerships and opportunities. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Matillo. And just by clarification, I see the note related to bus drivers. So that's a 64.9% fill rate for the optimal level of service.
That's correct.
But that's not the number of drivers we had at the beginning of the year.
That's
right, that we had fewer drivers at the beginning of the year because we weren't able to run optimal routes, but
That's
rather we
correct.
did make sure we had, as you know, full bus service.
That is correct, yeah. We were able to staff the routes that we had planned, plus 2 subs in each region to start the year. And I think as we brought up before, we're continuing to try to, get to the optimal level, but also reporting our vacancies to that optimal level.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, any questions for Dr. Mutilla? Ms. Gordon?
This may or may not fall within this, but as it pertains to services that we offer, like speech language, for speech language pathologists, what is being done, if a speech language pathologist has to go out on leave? Does that affect our numbers? I guess what I'm asking, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think if an employee is out on leave, depending on the type of leave, it may or may not be included in the vacancy numbers. And we do have provisions for longer-term leave when we can, hire some folks on an interim basis to try to cover for those leaves.
Okay.
And if it's specific about speech language pathologists, I can get you some more information on that as well,
Okay.
if you're specifically interested in that.
Yes, please.
So, Mrs. Gordon, was the idea, how do we provide services in those areas when somebody like a speech pathologist is out? Is
Right.
that really?
Yes.
Yeah, so we are still responsible for providing those services. So within the special education department, they will either reassign additional staff to cover those needs, or we will have to provide compensatory services if that person is out. And so we can get additional information about exactly how we address each one of those issues that come up. But if I get speech services and the person is out, then we can't not provide those services. We can't provide it immediately then, but it'll be rescheduled at some point so we can still provide it.
And I do think one of my colleagues off to the right is trying to tell me that we also use contracts for that purpose as well when we do have folks who are out, so.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right. Further questions for Dr. Mutillo? Ms. Rass?
Dr. Matillo, I may or may not have heard you correctly with explaining your slide. Can you clarify me what the top general ed, special education, and then what the bottom general ed and special education categories are?
Yeah, so the top is general education and special education teachers, and then the ones below are general ed and special ed instructional assistants.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that.
No problem.
In between, I'm sorry. Thank
It's a
you.
busy slide. It's my fault.
Dr. Eng.
Can you kind of or just explain how we are approaching the special education IAs, like the pipeline? Where are they coming from? How are we going to recruit them?
Recruit the IAs or the teachers?
The IAs, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we continue to, post and recruit for those. I don't think we have specific pipelines that we do recruit from for instructional assistants. If you remember, there is a slight pay differential for special ed IAs versus regular ed IAs, so sometimes folks in those regular ed positions will want to move into the special ed positions, but at this point, we don't have specific pipelines to lead from other positions to instructional assistant positions.
Just wondering, if there's any way we can open it out up to the community in some ways because there's a lot of passionate people who wants to help. It's just, they may not have the kind of education that they have as a special education teacher, but they have a big heart, and how can we get the word out that that we have these vacancies?
Yeah, and we can continue to explore that. It is one of the groups that we do advertise for, but we can continue to explore different ideas for that. Yeah.
All right. Follow up, Ms. Rice?
Yes, I do. One last question. I don't know if you can answer, but to Dr. Ning's point a little bit, I was looking, how are we actually training and supporting our instructional assistants? Because as I visit classrooms, special education is a very unique art and support, and so I was just trying to figure out as you're advertising the best you can, as you're getting people that you can, how are we trying to support them with the retention process
Yeah.
for them?
That's probably another area of opportunity, Ms. Rice. We definitely, they rely on the teachers that they're working with. We have our normal onboarding and orientation, but I think what you're getting at is it is a different kind of role. We've just started partnering with special ed on some onboarding for special ed teachers. So HR now is, like, especially those alternate licensure teachers, we are providing additional training for them. So I think we can start to also look at how we do that for instructional assistants. And I think Lisa Allred is maybe have something to add to that answer.
A couple things to add to that. So as part of our plan for disproportionality, we have a plan to roll all of our special ed IAs through registered behavior technician training to give them some very specific skills around how to address some of those behaviors that I think is what you're talking about, how to take really good data so that they can address those things. We also have worked with HR to meet monthly with those ALI and BT teachers as well, to give them some additional support. And I just wanted to bring both of those to your.
And the last thing I'll say, Chair, is I would continue, Ms. Allred, as you guys work with the special education teachers as well as our staff in general, continue to also look at how we're going to serve their well-being. That's not an easy position. It's not an easy position.
All right. All right. Thank you, Dr. Mutillo.
Thank you all.
Transportation.
So I'm thankful for the opportunity to continue to present tonight. All ready to go, and so I'm glad to get to share this wonderful information. So I've got a couple of quick slides about transportation. The first is talking about three of the metrics that we track that are very important to the program. Obviously, you've heard some discussion about the bus driver vacancy rate. And so we've held pretty steady over the last 3 years. And as Chair pointed out, that 31% vacancy rate is our optimum fill rate if we were not to have to do double or triple backs anywhere throughout the district. I think it is worthwhile to note and to share that for the last year or so plus, maybe 2 years, there has been an intensive recruiting effort on the part of many of us within the district to identify, recruit, and bring in new bus drivers. We have a dedicated recruitment person. We meet twice a month, and I don't know where we would be if we had not been doing that, because that has really proved us well throughout this process. We are a few drivers short than when we started our last projections back in June, but nevertheless, we're still looking for opportunities to improve. We still have a relatively strong pipeline of recruits in the mix. They have to go through criminal records check. They have to go through DPI training. The bus class, Dr. Taylor has been and spoken to several of them, so that effort remains strong. But the bus driver vacancy rate is something that is a metric that is very valuable to us. Also very important to us is our inspection score. And so much like in golf, a lower score is better. The scale goes from 0 to 100. Nobody gets a 0. In the eastern part of North Carolina, I was double checking today, the scores are in the low to high 30s. We're not considered in the eastern part, but that 25.8 for this year is really good. That's based off of inspections by DPI, and we are expecting an inspection very, very soon. It is time for us to get one. They come and look at a percentage of our buses and look for safety issues, and there are mundane things such as mirrors not being adjusted properly, seats that are torn, things like that can count against you on your inspection score. So that's a metric that we look at on a regular basis, in addition to the monthly inspections that we are required to perform. And then lastly, important for us is the efficiency rating that determines a lot of our funding. And I'm glad to say that for the last couple of years, our efficiency rating from DPI has been 100%. Moving on to the next slide. This is exciting too, but for a different reason. And the data that we're showing on here is in its infancy. So for some time, we have been working on a data dashboard with technology and with transportation. This is an internal effort to better track our buses, their movement, whether they're late or not, on time. And so we've been working on this dashboard. We hope to show it to you all in the coming months when it is finalized. But this is some of the information that we've gleaned from this right now. Again, this information is in its infancy. You can see the incomplete data. We're working with our GPS provider to try and figure out a way to clean that data up and make it more usable for us. But these are some of the things that we're looking at right now. And again, this will be an internal effort that our managers and field people have asked for so that we can better and more easily access the information on the performance of our buses. And that's something that we're working on, again, both in-house with transportation staff and also with technology. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right. Questions for Mr. Strickland? All right. Well, that's amazing. Good job.
I'll turn it over to Mr. Badula.
All right.
And there's a reason why I want to go back to the last slide. Good evening, Chair Hagerty, board members, Dr. Taylor. Thank you for the opportunity. I know I'm the last one on the deck, but I'll make sure I take enough time to bring you some updates. So the reason I want to go back to this slide is this is an internal effort. Obviously, we presented this data several months ago about how can we provide that experience to our families when a bus arrives late, right? So we didn't have any mechanism in the past. It was all manual. So we automated a lot of these things where if a bus is running late, you get a notification on your phone saying that the bus is running late, and you don't have to show up in the bus stop in a cold weather. So obviously it's a big time experience enhancement for our family and community. I just want to make sure we kind of talk about that. So obviously some of the projects I'm going to talk about, the metrics I'm going to talk about is for the last year. The two big things I want to talk about is the new student information system update. Obviously, board had an update last month about the humongous effort, which is cross-functional effort everybody put in, because we were literally under the gun to really implement this system come July 1, and we did it. And obviously, it's a huge effort, not just from technology, but across cross-functional team within central services, our educators, our principals, our community, our parents, students. It impacts everyone. So just want to make sure I call that out. It is a humongous effort, and I said that in the board update. I think this is my 6th SIS implementation. I think this was the best implementation. I can confidently say that, right? But we're still working through some of the nuances of the system. We are still maturing the system. We are still kind of going through those checks and balances. But I think as we progress through the year, we hope we're going to stabilize using that system, right? Number 2 is the whole Oracle ERP. Several months ago, we updated the board on that. So we were running a outdated, antiquated Oracle system. Now we're running the latest and greatest software of the Oracle. We have a stable environment, not only on the software side, but also on the infrastructure side. So that is the core business system. So we have a really stable system there. So moving on to some of the metrics, metrics here. The number one is if you look at the devices, this is all impacting our schools, right? So these are all the Promethean boards we rolled out last school year. Obviously, close to about 12,000 Promethean boards we have rolled out. We should be closing out that project this year. We're about 95% done. All the instructional spaces have been equipped with those Promethean boards, making sure our students and our educators have the technology to basically support the instruction, right? Next one is the student devices, which is pretty much the activity we do every year. 38,000 Chromebooks. We provide new devices to our 3rd graders, our 6th graders, and 9th graders. Obviously, we also refurbish a number of devices so we can reutilize them. Last year, we also made sure that every staff member had a new, including you, new device. So we made sure we keep up with that refresh to make sure they have the equipment and the technology they need to support the instruction. So we took care of that. Next line is the resources. Obviously, to support all this technology, we need to have a solid help desk in place. So 140,000 odd tickets were generated. We were able to provide the support needed there. And the next one is the digital resource product library. Any piece of technology, whether it is software, has to be reviewed by our team to make sure it is safe and secure. We want to make sure the digital ecosystem, what we have, is safe and secured. So we did that activity of 387 requests, so almost 356 requests were processed. The next line item is all the core infrastructure supporting the instruction which goes into the school. We were able to increase the internet speed by about 50% to all the schools. So that is something we are really proud of. Next one, and I'm trying to see. All right. Next one is the refresh the internet infrastructure in 46 schools last year. Obviously, we have to make sure the core infrastructure, which is the infrastructure which supports the internet and the network and everything, is refreshed. We were able to refresh in 46 schools last year. The overall uptime for our internet in our schools is about 99.7. That's pretty good rate, and then about 160 schools had about 100% availability of the internet all through the year. So with that, that is my 1 or 2 slides, and happy to take any questions.
All right, are there any questions? Ms. Edmonds?
So just to clarify, the Promethean boards, all of our schools have them. This was just what was added last school year.
Correct. So overall, we added about close to 12,000 odd Promethean boards. We're about 95%. There are still about 20 odd schools left. We're going to finish up those schools. So about 300 boards still left to be installed.
And that'll be done by the end of this school year?
That is correct.
Okay. And then my second question
Go ahead.
is, well, it's not really a question, it's a comment, a request. Again, with the lots of budget uncertainty for 2026, and this may not even be in consideration, but if the time comes to consider, I'd ask us to please be very thoughtful about not replacing any staff devices unless it's absolutely necessary. I do appreciate having, updated, current technology that is useful and supports teaching and supports our administrators, both school-based and based in this office. But, and I don't have a sense of the percent. I know it's in our budget book, but not having that in front of me, if that's at all helpful, a place where we can save, and I ask us that we be very thoughtful about that.
Thank you for that question, Ms. Edmonds. I think that going back to the staff devices, we refreshed last year, so we're good for another, I would say, 4 years, 3.5 to 4 years, so we don't have to worry about them.
All right, thank you. We'll do Ms. Rice, then Vice Chair Swanson.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'm trying to make sure I understand my colleague's statement. I'm a little perplexed considering when we're talking. You said we have another 4 years or so before we have to.
We have to refresh the staff devices again.
Right, and so the thing that I have to remind us about it, and I get our budget restraints and all of those good things, but at the end of the day, where we are right now, that's how teachers teach. Every student has a Chromebook. Every teacher has to have it. Their stuff has to be up to date. They can't do their jobs. I don't know a student in Wake County school system right now isn't learning on their device, whether it's in the classroom, whether they take it home. And so if our teachers don't have what they need to do their job, we don't have books, we have paper limits. So for me, I need for staff to have all that they need technology-wise, because that's the only way that they're teaching our kids right now. If there's another way that we're teaching that I'm completely missing, then I've been missing something. My kid's only been gone since May, and that's the only way he learned, and the only way he learned was if the teacher uploaded, because the teachers are uploading the lessons in Canvas and the other way, and if their systems aren't working correctly or don't have the new refresh and updates, then they can't actually post stuff and do it correctly and appropriately. I could be wrong, please correct me if I don't know, but that's just my thoughts. I just want to make sure that we're not, I think I hear, anyway, I just don't see our Chromebooks and the teachers' computers and technology is something that's an option at this point where we are and where we're going, and so I just know unless we got some new textbooks coming I don't know about.
So, Mr. Badula, in your professional opinion, what is the average life cycle or time period for a laptop? Do laptops and Chromebooks need to be replaced every year, or is there a certain best practice, or what does the industry recommend in terms of refresh time?
Thank you for that question. So if you look at a Windows device, which is primarily our staff devices, you're looking at about 3 to 4 years life cycle, right? So my response was we replaced last year, which is literally less than a year. So we have a little bit about another 3.5 years left on those devices. Chromebook is the same thing, probably lesser age, maybe about 2.5 to 3 years on that, but we do repurpose, we kind of, refurbish and we repurpose them.
Thank you. And if something did happen where one became non-functional, it would be replaced ahead of the
Correct.
refurbished schedule?
Right.
All right.
And we have support on those Windows devices, for example, from the vendor. So if something goes wrong, they will fix it. Even when they cross that support, we have an internal technical team who actually can fix that and make sure we kind of maximize the life period of that particular device. And we are doing that for the Windows device and also for the Chromebooks.
Great, thank you. Dr. Ng?
Yes, just to kind of go along with that, just what part of the laptop requires you to change it? Or, meaning, is it a component in it? Is it the operating system? Is it is it just slowing down because of all the apps that you put in? What kind of things are we dealing with that causes us to have to replace them?
Yeah, great question, Dr. Ring. So there are two components, software and hardware. Software components are something you have to update on a periodic basis on all the updates you get while you're doing your work. Sometimes we have to do that for two reasons: to make sure all the applications which are running, they run seamlessly. That's number one. Number two, also to make sure your laptop is safe and secure, the security updates, right? So when you come to hardware, when we bought these devices last year, we made sure the configuration of the hardware, what we bought, is good for the next 4 to 5 years. So if somebody drops a device, and that's a whole different issue because we have to replace it and everything.
Go ahead.
And then you mentioned earlier that the new laptops were provided to the younger grades students. Is that correct?
No, I'm talking about the staff laptops.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Staff laptops, everybody got the Windows laptops last year.
Okay, but you did mention about...
Yeah, the Chromebooks.
The Chromebooks.
The Chromebooks, right now, the way we are doing is we are providing new Chromebooks for the third graders, sixth graders, and ninth graders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that they can carry on through
That is correct.
course of their...
Transition into the next, middle school or high school and all that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gordon?
Are we seeing more of a cost in replacing educator devices or student devices?
Obviously, a student.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Vice Chair Swanson?
Yes, and I wanted to, I know we've been having discussions about CIP and technology funding regarding the one-to-one device, and I think as we look through this, perhaps there could be some shifts that could take place with ensuring that, K3 or K4 are not having Chromebooks, but a class set, if we're trying to be useful and thinking outside the box. But that's just a suggestion. I think we've had some early discussions. I know the chair's put some discussions together about that, and so I just wanted to lift that up and, put it out there since I thought it was appropriate with this discussion.
And Chief Padula, you will be coming back to us later, kind of talking about some of
That is
these
correct.
specific recommendations and where we might look to either maximize efficiency or look to other devices, just in sort of right-sizing our technology. Is that
is
right?
correct. That is
Okay.
correct. We got your feedback in the last session. We're putting all that together, and we're going to come forward with all those options and recommendations, and then talk about those.
Okay, so we'll have a more extended discussion.
Correct.
At that time.
That's right.
Okay. Are
And
there any-
Mr. Chair,
Go
I
ahead.
wanted to also add that during those discussions where we talked about reductions in the CIP, even though the board had not made an official position on what those numbers were, Chief Budula and his team have made recommendations based on what we would anticipate that reduction would be. And so they've already prepared for those adjustments.
All right, thank you. Any final questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Robinson or Dr. Keith Alford? Alford Keith?
Thank you, Sasha. So once again, thank you for the opportunity for allowing us to be able to present. Can you continue to show the slide deck, please? I have a couple of more slides. Thank you. And so here, this is one of the things that we wanted to definitely share with you. This is our forecast with regards to the additional strategic plan deep dives that we have scheduled. But more importantly than what you see on the screen, we wanted to provide you an opportunity to really give us some feedback if there is anything that is specific that you would like for us to be able to bring that is of interest to you that we may not have included. And so as we prepare for the next strategic plan update, are there any areas you would like us to approach differently or enhance more forward? So we really need feedback with regards to how can we make this better and more impactful and meaningful for the board, and we're giving you the information that you want.
Ms. Gordon? That was a hand, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Thank you. I can appreciate the in-depth information and effort that it has taken to, provide us with this information. I think for me, if we are moving forward with this continuous improvement mindset, when we're presented with data, if we are presented with the glows and the grows, and everything is not just gleaming, because when we don't know where we need to improve, we can't improve. And so I will just say that around the data that we're presented with.
Thank you, ma'am. Glows and grows.
And then the only thing that I would add would just be, as wonderful a presentation as this is, if we could get it maybe uploaded or shared with the board a little bit earlier.
Okay.
That'll just help us digest it so that when we come with questions, we've had time to think about them. And some questions we can ask offline, right? Rather than, asking it at the board level. Or if you hear the same question from several board members, it might mean that it's something to address in the meeting. So that'd be great. Thank you. Dr. Eng?
Yeah, thank you. I think I enjoyed, even though I said no, we don't want to go through it today. I did enjoy the information. But I think an approach that maybe can consider maybe a problem-based approach to presenting this information. Perhaps, because so many of these are kind of cross-cutting for different departments. And, if we have a problem that we can present as the original, issue, and how does it relate to, this department, that department, and how do you guys work together to solve a problem? I mean, it's just, I know it's not as comprehensive as what you guys have done today and previous sessions, but it may be helpful for us to think through the how it works in real life.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Edmonds.
Thank you. This is in no way directed at board leadership, but I feel like we owe you more of our agenda time going forward. It's been noted, I'm sure with all of us, that today's not the first time that we've encroached on your agenda time. So I think we all, in a unified way, need to really dedicate some time to prioritizing what you all have to share with us, perhaps putting you first on agenda, things like that. So just a call for all of us to, again, in a unified way, because I'm not picking on our board leadership, that we make sure we give you the time that is due. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Edmonds. Anything else? Ms. Ress?
Well, Dr. Robinson, I absolutely love our strategic plan, and I'll share a little bit about it in my board comments later. One of the things that you're asking us here, what I would like to see is in each one of our priorities and then within some of our aims, I think someone's probably already said it, how do we help, how do we show, like what we did tonight with community engagement, our metrics, and where we actually are. We got to see a little bit of data around surveyed of where we are with meeting those 2028 target goals. I think those are lofty goals. I think those are goals of excellence, and I think we can do it. I'm just interested in everything that we do as staff comes to us. I'm always looking, even though I know we list what our priority is and our aim is every time they come and present, we talking about it and how it fits, but I'm looking to see the measurements of where we actually are in doing it. So we can talk about it all day long, but as this is your baby, you put it together. I need to see how do we meet the mark? Are we hitting the target for 2028? And then what do we need to do as a board to support staff or push it more in the culture to bring those timelines aligned to where we need to be? So I really would like to see a little bit more measurements as we move forward. Every time that we're presenting, when staff do it, can they also share in that slides that they do, share where you are in that goal, in your measurement? Are you at 58% out of the 95%, or are you really at 85% of that? So what does that measurement look like? Because come 2028, when it's time to show the measurement, I don't want to see, well, we tried really, really hard. No, show us where we are so that we as a board can kind of make some more direct decisions about where our funding needs to be, and so the superintendent can see where he needs to allocate things a little bit better within the district as we assess and measure. Thank you.
All right. Any final thoughts, Vice Chair Swanson?
I thank you, Dr. Robinson and Dr. Alfred Keefe, and all the folks who worked on this. And I think it's important to show how all of this comes together. And I've been paying attention to the strategic plan since I voted on it in 2022-3. So it never went in the shelf, and I just forgot about it. It's a living document. And so one thing, not only as a board to pay attention, but the community is inviting you all to BAC meetings, which you will be coming to District 9's BAC on December the 11th to talk about the strategic plan and where we are after the state releases the data. So we have to be very strategic when we're pulling this out, because some of the data that we want to take deep dives into is not fully released yet. Due to its embargo is the word that I was looking for. So I think there's a lot of work, and we know when we put this plan together that it was going to take some time to move the needle. So I think it's important to see where we're making strides, where we need to do a little bit more work, and how we are, and also how we're being transparent to the public. A lot of folks would not necessarily put their data out when they're not meeting the mark or not saying that we're doing this. So I think it's important that we are owning that yes, there are some wins, but there's also more things for us to do. And I also think, the piece with the school improvement plans, we haven't discussed that since since we pulled those things out. So I think there's things that we're doing to move the needle if folks are paying attention. And so thank you all for the work. And I guess we'll give them a sneak preview that this is not going away, and it'll be coming out at our upcoming retreat and all that, and we'll be doing deeper dives and breakouts and all that. So it's not going on a shelf. There's things that we need to do. And I think also it's important that as we move the work in our committees is to pick pieces of the strategic plan and discuss them in the committees that you have the ability to do that. So it requires all of us to move this work and not to necessarily do it alone. And I think we could use an entire month or whatnot to really do deep dives. But we know that with everything that's going on, we have to maneuver. And so I just want to thank the chair for allowing us to push this on the forefront as quickly as we can, and doing the work that we have to really show where we are and where we're choosing to go forward, not just in 2028, but beyond.
Thank you.
And I think that's an appropriate place to end. Thank you, Dr. Robinson.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So at this time on our agenda, we would move to information items. And the first information item are comments by our superintendent, Dr. Robert Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to start by speaking plainly to our public about our responsive reports of immigration enforcement actions in our area, which we address in a message to our staff and the community today. We recognize these developments have created uncertainty and stress, and I want to use this opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to every Wake County student and family. Our primary and non-negotiable mission is to provide a safe, welcoming, and inclusive learning environment for every child, regardless of their background or citizenship status. This commitment is legally grounded in the Supreme Court's decision in Plyer v. Doe, which guarantees the right to a public education for all children, residing within our boundaries. So we want to reassure our community that our district has always followed federal and state laws and will continue to do so. While that does include complying with law enforcement actions as prescribed by law, it also includes honoring all laws protecting the rights and privacy of students. And to that end, our district does not ask for or record information about the immigration status of any student or family. School leaders were reminded today of the strict procedures that law enforcement agencies must follow when interacting with students on our school property. Should immigration enforcement personnel seek access to a campus, our building leaders will immediately consult with legal counsel to ensure compliance with all applicable laws. So we strongly encourage any family whose child has social emotional needs related to these developments to reach out to their schools and the student services teams that are there. Above all, we want our families to know that the safety, privacy, and right to a sound education is guaranteed in this district for every student, and we will do everything in our power to ensure that remains the case. And so with that, I want to shift our focus now to recognize an absolutely crucial role in our schools, and that is the intervention coordinator. Tomorrow, November 19th, is Intervention Coordinator Day, and we are proud to take this opportunity to shine a spotlight on these dedicated professionals. These staff members are instructional leaders who work collaboratively with fellow educators to make sure every student is getting the support they need to be successful. Intervention coordinators are responsible for developing, implementing, and monitoring intervention plans, as well as analyzing multiple data sources to tailor instruction to student needs. They also provide essential professional learning and coaching to their colleagues, which elevates the instructional capacity of the entire school. Their expertise is essential in managing the supplemental and intensive interventions that operate within our multi-tiered system of supports. We call that MTSS framework. This framework allows us to address the academic, behavioral, and social emotional growth of our students through rigorous data-driven problem solving. Intervention coordinators are the navigators who ensure every child receives the right support at the right time. They play an essential role in our mission to make sure every student has the opportunity to reach their full potential. So we are asking our schools to celebrate their intervention coordinators on social media using the hashtag WCPSSIS appreciation. And so if your child has ever benefited from the work of an intervention coordinator, I hope you'll also take the opportunity to express your gratitude. I also want to take a quick moment to recognize our board chair, Mr. Haggerty. And I know he was probably not expecting this. He's looking at me like, what is he about to say? But he had the distinct opportunity to be a guest lecturer at Harvard Law School. I didn't say Howard, I said Harvard. And I just want to recognize he took the opportunity to talk to students about their professional conduct and arbitration. To me, that is a tribute to the members that we have on the Wake County Public School Board. And I know that the
The Legal Eagles.
Yeah, the Legal Eagles. Central University is proud of their alumni, and so I just wanted to say how proud we are of you for representing at Harvard Law School.
Appreciate it. Howard's next.
Howard is next, okay. And at this time, Mr. Drew Cook, if you could come forward to the podium. I know you weren't expecting this, but I next would like to take a moment to acknowledge the upcoming retirement of a dedicated WCPSS educator, Mr. Drew Cook, our Assistant Superintendent for Academics. Drew's commitment to this district is profoundly personal. Thank you, Mr. Cook. He is a product of the Wake County Public School System, graduating from Garner High School, the class of 1992. Man, I must be old, because I was in the 80s graduate. Man. His career came full circle when he returned to Garner High School in 1996 as a beloved teacher. He later became a highly regarded assistant principal and principal at his alma mater, leading the successful implementation of the IB Magnet program. His impact as a leader was widely recognized when he was named the WCPSS Principal of the Year in 2011 and Regional Principal of the Year in 2012. After moving to Central Services, Drew played a pivotal role in creating innovative programs such as Crossroads Flex and an innovative online program to give dropouts the opportunity to earn their high school diplomas. He served in his current role since 2019, leading the entire academics department with his characteristic grace and humility through immense challenges, including the pandemic. He leaves us having recently earned the 2024 Employee Excellence Award, a fitting tribute to his years of service. So, Drew, thank you for your kind and dedicated leadership. You leave a legacy of innovative, compassionate service to both our students and our teachers and principals. And I can tell you will be greatly missed, but we wish you all the best in your well-deserved retirement. And Drew, you will continue to hear me say, I think the greatest honor that we can have as an educator is when we are considered an institution. And that is what you have become. So please join me in a round of applause for Mr. Drew Cook. And Drew, I do want to give you an opportunity to say some words.
No, it's late.
We got time, man.
No, and you did catch me off guard, but it's very much appreciated and very humbling. It's been my honor to work in this district since 1997. All I wanted to do was be a basketball coach and a high school social studies teacher, and it's amazing the journey that this profession takes you on. It has been truly a blur. It's gone by so fast. Some of the things, Dr. Taylor, you just read, I forgot that I did and forgot that I was involved in. But truly and humbly, it's been my pleasure. Every day, we don't always agree on all the details, but I've always felt it, even in this room, that our hearts are in the right place, even when our minds are in different places about where we need to go and how we're going to get there. And so I'm excited about the future of the Wake County Public School System. I'm a third-generation Wake County Public School System educator, and so I've got a daughter who is employed as a high school social studies teacher right now. And so I'm excited about where she and the district are going to be going. There's great things ahead. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I look forward to what's next, whatever that is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Lastly, students at Con Magnet Elementary got a special visit last week from former NASA astronaut and administrator Major General Charlie Bolton. General Bolton's long career included piloting the mission that launched the Hubble Space Telescope. He shared stories and lessons from his career before taking questions from students. His visit set the stage for Con students to make radio contact with the International Space Station in January. So take a look at this video from General Bolton's visit.
In January, students at Con Magnet Elementary will have the opportunity to make contact with the International Space Station. Before that, they got a very special visit from former astronaut and director of NASA, Charles Bolden. Mr. Bolden shared his journey from his school days all the way to venturing to space and answered many questions from the students.
This is one of my heroes. This is Dr. Franklin Chang Diaz from San Jose, Costa Rica. When we go to space, we're going so fast. We're going 17,500 miles an hour. At that speed, it's actually trying to pull the spacecraft away from gravity, trying to break it free of gravity.
Students enjoyed the presentation and left with an ambition to reach for the stars.
And since I learned all about him, I was super excited to meet him. I've always been fascinated by space, and ever since I was 7, I've always wanted to be an astronaut.
The lesson that I've tried to give them right in the beginning, don't ever let anybody tell them what they can't do. Dream their dreams and then do whatever it takes to make it happen. Believe in themselves, study really hard, work hard, and most important thing is don't never be afraid of failure. That's okay. You know, if you try something and you fail, that's okay. Just keep going.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are my comments. Omega Men in space. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. What I'd like to do for the board comments is if Mr. Hershey is still here, I'd like to give him the opportunity to go first.
Still here.
All right.
I will be brief, and then I will drop off so you don't have to take a roll call vote to go to closed session in a little bit. I just want to thank the members of the community who came out to speak tonight on behalf of our other members in the community who are feeling a lot of emotions today, tomorrow, the next day. And I also want to thank the members of the community in general throughout Wake County who are making their voices heard, who are standing up for what's right, who are standing up for our students and our families. We hear you. Keep doing it, please. It is so meaningful and so powerful, and I will never back down from diversity makes us stronger. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hershey. We'll proceed with our other board members for board comment. We'll start with Ms. Edmonds.
Yeah, today was a very hard day. I want to thank the superintendent and his team for your leadership and all on your team for their leadership in this moment. Thank you to all of our school-based staff who did their best to put families at ease and students at ease. As a board member, I can say, just my personal experience, that it was very hard, extremely hard to focus on today's board business, knowing that people in our community, and particularly Wake County public school families, were potentially subject to what I describe as a form of domestic terrorism. The presence of ICE, whether it's here in Wake County or elsewhere, causes real, unnecessary, and long-term trauma. I really appreciate the speaker that lifted up ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. The fear and trauma imposed on our children's developing minds and hearts, brought on by these bands of masked men and women, armed head to toe, indiscriminately showing up in public spaces, neighborhoods, businesses, and even schools. Whether or not that happened in Wake County schools today, that's not the point. The threat that they could show up in our schools, that fear and trauma imposed on our children will be with them for the rest of their lives. The adults too. We are tasked with educating these children who've been traumatized, who are living through that trauma, and because we're Wake County, we are also tasked with supporting their families. I know we're all committed to doing that, but let us acknowledge how much harder days like today make that work. I'll end here, but I do want to lift up the organization Siembra NC, who work around the clock to support North Carolina residents who are targeted by ICE. They offer trainings for allies and concerned community members. You can find them at siembranc.org. Lastly, my District 5 BAC will be on Monday, November 24th at 5:30 p.m. at Westlake Elementary. And we will be hearing, this was already on the agenda, we'll be hearing about the many student services available in our district that support student mental health and well-being. Thank you to Ms. Woodson and her team for bringing that to us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Edmonds. Dr. Eng.
Thank you. Last night, the District 3 Board Advisory Council met at Abbott's Creek Elementary School, and I want to thank Dr. McMillan and his staff from the Data Research and Accountability for giving us a presentation. And I want to thank the PTA there for hosting the meeting. And I also especially want to thank Principal Trantham for her dedication to the school. She even brought her husband along to help her clean up the school, the media center afterwards. So that's the kind of dedication that she displays. And speaking of Abbott's Creek, I was happy to hear that the school just joined the SHARE program, which stands for Stop Hunger and Restore Earth. This is the partnership between WCPSS and Toward Zero Waste to help recover unconsumed food from the cafeteria and use them to feed the students and not the landfills. And I've heard a lot of good things from other schools, so I'm happy to see that it's coming to District 3. And speaking of feeding our students, we are so grateful to have the District White Angel funds this past year. Even though it was well used, it does need to be replenished. So there is an opportunity coming up to contribute to the Angel Fund on December 4th. The organization For Children Partners is hosting an Eat, Drink, and Be Giving event, a night of raising awareness about how addressing food insecurity can help make a positive impact on learning. So my predecessor, Roxy Cash, who is also on the board of directors for Children Partners, brought this to my attention. It will be held at Briar Creek Country Club on December 4th at 6 p.m. So it'll be a fun night of food and fellowship, plus there will be an auction. And you can purchase tickets to the event on their website, www.forchildrenpartners.org. For is the F-O-R. A portion of each ticket and the proceeds from the auction will go towards supporting the System White Angel Fund. You can buy single tickets, or you can be a silver, gold, or platinum partner. And I wish to thank Ms. Cash for her continued advocacy beyond her tenure here. Finally, as we continue to develop our policies on cell phone use and on artificial intelligence, I want to encourage my fellow board members and the public listening to listen to the podcast Honestly from Barry Weiss, dated from November 17th. She interviewed Jonathan Haidt, who wrote the book The Anxious Generation, as well as another book, The Coddling of the American Mind. He and his books have helped spearhead a whole movement of returning children to play and exploring the real world, rather than becoming addicted to devices, the social media, and being consumed by the virtual world. He also pointed out data that showed a sharp rise in mental health issues starting in 2013 with the advent of Instagram and self-facing cameras on the phones. But really it is more than just about technology. It is about the culture that we have allowed to happen. Something is wrong when the #1 career goal for Gen Z is to be an influencer. And something is definitely wrong when a survey showed that people would rather be famous than to be happy. The solution does not come from our policies, our state legislations, although there are 35 states now that have cell phone legislations. The solution really has to come from the home, and we as parents have to model the right behavior and have the right priorities. So that means that we need to put those phones away at the dinner table and actually have a conversation with our family. And I am looking forward to seeing what our student achievement data will look like in the coming years as we start to change our relationship with technology. This is even more important as we figure out how we and our children navigate the arrival of AI, which is already arrived. We have to be deliberate in our approach with AI. Otherwise, we may end up going down the same road. So that's it for my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ng. And I will note with some irony, I listened to the podcast, but of course on my phone. Yeah. Ms. Gordon.
Thank you. Tonight, I want to speak clearly about something weighing heavily on many of our families, including my own, as we had to sit our boys down and have a transparent conversation with them last night. The fear created when ICE activity is reported in our communities. The impact is real, and so is our responsibility. Our schools must remain places of safety, stability, and trust for every student and family who walk through our doors. When families worry that simply bringing their child to school could put them at risk, learning becomes secondary to fear. And when fear enters our classrooms, it disrupts everything for everyone: attendance, mental health, academic focus, and the sense of belonging that every child deserves in their classroom. I want to be clear, our commitment is to students, not to systems that destabilize their well-being. I know that as a district, we will continue to uphold policies that protect student privacy, ensure our schools are welcoming environments, and reaffirm that no child should fear accessing their right to an education. We also have a responsibility to communicate proactively, support families who feel vulnerable, and make sure our staff has the guidance and training they need to keep classrooms calm, informed, and focused on learning. And I can appreciate the message that was shared with families and staff today. Tonight, I stand with our families, I stand with our educators, and I stand firmly on the belief that every child deserves a school environment free from fear. Our policies and our actions must continue to reflect that commitment. One community threatened is all communities threatened. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll come around the table to Ms. Rice.
Good evening, everyone. Since our November 3rd board meeting, outstanding excellence continues to shine through District 4. Before I get started, I want to remind everyone that District 4 has a community meeting concerning the Lincoln Project on Monday, November 24th at 6 to 8 p.m. at Southeast Raleigh at Southeast Raleigh YMCA on Rockwire Road. And our next Board Advisory Council meeting is on Monday, December the 1st at Poe Elementary School from 6:30 until 8. On November 10th in Winston-Salem, I witnessed exceptional performances by Carnage Magnet Middle School, Enloe Magnet High School, and Green Level High School at the NC Music Educators Conference. This is a highly selective stage representing the highest level of statewide musical excellence. Our students and staff represented Wake County with dignity, discipline, and talent. From November the 12th through the 14th, I attended the NC School Board Association Conference during a session on school safety. During a session on school safety through principal self-care and well-being, I was pleasantly surprised, but not shocked to learn that the representatives were our very own Wake County Public Schools staff. They delivered research-based strategies, real solutions, and compelling data on how principal well-being directly impacts student safety and achievement. I look forward to this information being shared with the full board soon. On November 13th, we celebrated Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day. Community leaders, parents, students, administrators, and Southeast Raleigh football team and the Raleigh Firebirds joined together for a community walk. The second graders of Southeast Raleigh Elementary School performed a beautiful readers theater, and the evening closed with a vibrant curriculum night. It was a powerful display of unity, history, and community pride, and I would hope that we had some information about that in our community, in our communications as we continue to plan to bring out the highlights of what happens in Southeast Raleigh. So, our 8 Dimensions of Wellness focus tonight, I know you're waiting for it, is spiritual wellness. Tonight, I want to highlight spiritual wellness, especially in light of the current social tensions surrounding border control and the widespread feelings of anxiety, uncertainty, and fear that many are experiencing. Spiritual wellness is not about faith alone. It is about finding purpose and meaning in life. It is a personal journey of discovery. It includes cultivating inner peace and harmony and grounding oneself in values, beliefs, and ethics that guide how we show up in the world. As you reflect, I encourage you to consider how your spiritual wellness tools can help you better support the emotional, social, and environmental wellness of your neighbors. Even when it may look like divisive forces seek to dismantle families or communities, remember this: they will not prosper against you. So you can have a positive and productive day. That's it.
Thank you, Vice Chair Swanson.
Thank you. I also want to say to Mr. Cook, congratulations on his upcoming retirement, and Thanks for all the work that he's done for Wake County Public Schools and the work that he will continue to do. So thank you, and I will say that you will most definitely be missed. I had the honor of really working closely with you, and during my time as Student Achievement Chair, and also I'm grateful for your wisdom and your steady voice that you always bring to every situation, so thank you. I also want to thank the superintendent and his team for the statement that went out to many families to show that our schools are a part of our community, and my thoughts are out with the families who are impacting this, and I often just was remembering the quote that is on the Statue of Liberty that says, "Give me your poor, your hurtled masses yearning to be free," and I'll just leave that as that, because I think we're in some interesting times, and our students deserve to be in a community, in a place where they can feel seen, safe, and heard, and learning without having to worry about distractions that students should not have to worry about at their age. And so I am grateful that we're in a community that centers all students and families. I also want to share that the chair and the superintendent and I and Ms. Rice had the opportunity of attending the Wake Ed Gala, Stars for Education, where our former, most recent chief of schools, Jackie Ellis, was honored as a friend of education, or Stars of Education, for her many service to public schools. And so it was always great to be in like-minded spaces where folks in the community are coming together around public education and preserving and protecting. And so that was such a great event, and it was always great to hear some wisdom from Dr. Flood, his leadership. And I will say, I can no longer say that I am exhausted when he's 93 and still doing this work. And so I always look forward to hearing the wisdom that he has to drop for us. And also want to just thank the chair for his leadership. I thought you was going there, Dr. Taylor, because you were in my notes as well, for his leadership on the North Carolina School Boards Association, representing not just Wake County, but the entire School Boards Association, and bringing that leadership and that reminder there. So thank you for the service that you've went into that. I know it's not easy juggling the chairman's role as well as being on the board of directors for the School Board Association, but you definitely represented Wake County and this board very well. So thank you for that leadership. And I will say that lastly, and it'll probably be forthcoming, that the District 9 Board Advisory Committee meeting will take place on December the 11th. At Adams Elementary, and Dr. Robinson and his team will be talking about the strategic plan updates where we are, which has been a popular presentation that the community has requested. So we will be diving into that as well. So that concludes my board comments.
All right. Thank you, Vice Chair Swanson. A few things tonight. I hope you'll indulge me. I won't do this too often for too long. I guess first and foremost, I want to, that your colleague, Ms. Caulfield, isn't here tonight, and she is taking care of her son, Alex, who is coming out of surgery, and we just want all of us here I wanted to let you know that he's progressing well, but we just all wish him a very speedy recovery. He's a brave young man, and it's tough. As parents, we know it's tough when your child goes through anything like that. So we wish her well as her son, and hope she'll be able to join us at our next meetings. The big topic tonight, obviously, even though it was not part of our agenda, was what has been going on in our community today. And the rest of you have spoken to it and spoken to it well, so I don't want to dwell too much on it. But, as Dr. Ng has pointed out in his constitutional facts, we are a nation that, still follows the rule of law. And the rule of law in the United States, as cited by Dr. Taylor, maybe a future attorney, we'll see, the Plyler versus Doe decision, again, does guarantee all children the right to access to public education, regardless of citizenship status. And our district has always complied with federal law, and state laws will continue to do so. But just as importantly, the reason why we are here is to ensure that our schools remain safe and welcoming spaces for all students and all families. And I know that there are some people in our community that hear that, and maybe they don't understand some of the concern or outrage, or they don't understand why it's elicited this reaction and these comments. And what I would like to just ask, if I have a right to do so, would be, I would encourage them to talk to someone who has been profiled, racially profiled, or someone who has a fear for their personal safety, because it may not be in their life experience. They may not understand it. But if they just take the time to talk to someone who is experiencing that fear, that anxiety, learn about their life experience and why this is a concern, what they or their family or their parents have been through, I hope it'll create more understanding and more dialogue and help us move to a better place than some of the division that we've seen in our country lately. Moving on to some other topics. I want to thank you, Vice Chair Swanson, for referencing the North Carolina School Boards Association. I did complete 2 years on the Board of Directors, 4 years, and, funny story, every time I go to these meetings, they always know what's in Wake County's business. They're always asking me, they ask me about you all. They see you are all stars for the rest of the state. But this has been a very valuable opportunity. I appreciate being able to serve in that capacity and bring Wake County's voice to those state deliberations, and hope that I've made a meaningful contribution to them. I mentioned earlier today the 4 of us that were able to go to the School Board Association convention. And again, this is always something that is a valuable experience. Dr. Taylor joined us there as well. And it's a great opportunity to hear from others around the state about best practices, new information, new ideas. And I'm going to personally bring back several of the new ideas that I learned about and share those with you in future meetings. And I know it doesn't always work out with everyone's schedule, especially, we have a very busy November, but I would encourage your continued participation in the organization. So this, even though we have 2 more official meetings of the board before our annual meeting, this will be my last regular board meeting sitting in this chair in this role. And I wanted to take a moment, this is what I was asking you to indulge me, just to go back and talk about a little bit about the last 2 years that we've all been through together, or as soon into that 2 years as you joined us. Because, there have been highs and there have been lows. This has been a difficult year for public education. And we see a lot going on in the national news, but I don't want that to take away what you all have been able to accomplish sitting around this table in those 2 years. And I wanted to reflect on we talk about the glows and the grows, right? On some of those highlights, because we've done a lot, but we still have some unfinished business. I look in areas of safety and student safety, and we work to put naloxone in every school in this district and have staff trained to administer it, saving lives. We have, since I've been here, probably achieved the most SRO stability in terms of having a multi-year agreement in place that focuses on continuing education and training, which is something we emphasized, focuses on de-escalation. And with the creation of our SRO survey, we have more student and family feedback about these positions than ever before. And that has not always been the case in the district. And I think that's something you all should be proud of. We've added new security infrastructure because of security issues. We can't talk about all of it. And I think very significantly, we've had, I think, a very effective gun storage safety campaign that we continue to partner with sheriffs, the sheriff's office, and local law enforcement on, again, working to save lives. In terms of our students' mental and physical health, you know, Dr. Ng, I don't know if you took a look at in my notes earlier, but you referenced a lot of the areas where we've done a lot of work. You know, we joined with other school districts around the country to bring a class action lawsuit and demand accountability from the social media firms. That's still in progress, but it was a valuable and important statement as we recognize the addictive qualities of social media and how unhealthy these algorithms can be for our students' well-being. We've adopted a mobile phone policy. We, you know, again, the state came and told us we had to, but we had started and we were well on our way. In terms of physical health, we've referenced the Angel Fund and more intentional work than we've ever done trying to ensure that every student that comes to our school that is hungry gets fed. We've expanded the community eligibility program to provide more meals to more students at more schools in Wake County than ever before. Even little things like the food recovery programs, that SHARE program that Dr. Ng had referenced. You know, they've added a new one in Briar Creek in my district. You know, Sam, I know he dropped off, but, you know, he was pushing this. They push it from a sustainability perspective, but it's also important for a lot of our schools that those meals are available to any student that can come and get them anytime, no stigma, get something to eat. We have new anti-vaping programs and, you know, a real commitment to student mental health with our student mental health plans, which, again, are new to the district. In terms of our school buildings, you know, we started off 2023 rough, right? And going into the 23-24 year, but we have addressed shortages, and while we still have a way to go, we have seen improvements in the number of bus routes running, in improving our late and delayed routes and filling vacancies, and in terms of our HVAC outages from last year to this year. This one's a little personal to me, but we saved Morrisville High School when staff came to us and told us that the original site was unsuitable. And we were able to pivot and keep a high school planned for that community, a traditional high school. We created our first sustainability policy, which is something, you know, I've been working on and had been unsuccessful at it for years on this board. And we've hired a sustainability coordinator. We've already heard from our chief of technology, but it was a big lift, increasing our internet infrastructure. Things like this Oracle migration, it can get very technical, but that has been a major issue for the district for years. And it was great to see the progress that was made. In terms of our schools, well, also, you know, Infinite Campus as well. Getting an SIS up as smoothly as we did was no mean feat at all. Speaking of our schools, we saved the Wake Young Men's and Young Women's Leadership Academies. When that process started, there was no guarantee there was going to be a happy ending because so much stood against us. But we worked hard, we worked with staff, with parents, with our legislators, and we got that done. We restored the senior teacher exemption from extracurricular duty. You know, that was something that was eliminated by statute, and we sort of went along with it until we came back and said, you know what, that is a benefit for our teachers that we can provide, especially in an area where benefits are getting slimmer. We created the Community Engagement Committee, which did not exist before, and we've seen the community engagement fairs and expanded communication throughout our district with our families. Our magnet schools and our blue ribbon schools for the support of military families continue to win national awards and recognition. And historically, we saw the greatest investment by Wake County in our public schools. That's a lot. Now, we didn't get everything done that I hoped we would. There's a lot of things that are still in progress. We're continuing to work with the superintendent on the creation of an ombuds program and hoping improve our citizen and our employee grievance and complaint process. We've started planning, but it'll be for our next chair to lead our 50th anniversary celebration. And you actually heard from one of my constituents, Maddie Siegel, who came out today talking about Lisa, I call her Lisa, Chief Luton, and the job she did at our BAC. There is exciting stuff planned, you all, and I hope you'll all be here to see it. A legislative agenda and legislative progress, we probably made a lot more progress than we have on several key items, but I didn't think I'd be sitting here in November telling you we're still waiting on a budget. But if we get, as we've talked about, some of those key items that are in the House budget, we will have some real incremental, but real progress that we can take pride in. We've started and are still on track developing our AI policy and examining the appropriate level of technical equipment that our children need in schools. We've begun to reform our CIP priorities, to prioritize renovation and taking care of our existing facilities. Again, I was hoping before my last meeting as chair we would have those in place, but I'm going to keep pushing that and pushing you all on that, and I hope that we'll continue the progress in that regard. I'm proud of the collaboration we've had with our county commissioners. We've had more joint meetings than we've had before. Working with Vice Chair Swanson, he pioneered this idea of these municipal roundtables, getting better relations with our other local governments. And going back to our county commission and to our municipal government, we think we can help contribute to solving some of our problems with affordable housing. And that is so important, especially when you consider how many of our own staff would qualify, are in need of affordable housing in our community. Finally, again, we've begun the historic reorganization of our resources with the new regional model we heard about today. It's launched, but it's still being built. But I'm excited to see that, and we're not as far along as I hope we would be, but we've made great progress. And again, we've begun examination of our risk management process and the restrictions on extracurricular activities. And I hope we'll continue to take that seriously, because we know those kinds of activities help keep kids in school. And it's never given headline status, but attendance is one of the key factors in student engagement and success. So finally, there are some things left undone that I'd hoped I'd be able to make some progress on. I began working as your chair with the idea that we could identify some alternative stream of revenue from the county, from local government, working with the state. But even though we began research on that, much of this year has been spent kind of jumping from crisis to crisis and looking to replace lost grant revenue or suspended federal revenue. And even though there's still a lot of good ideas out there, I'm sorry we weren't able to actually identify that, because even though even though our needs are probably greater than what we might be able to identify in some of these streams, every dollar is needed, as we've talked about. I was hoping that we could do more for K-3 class size reform, and again, we had some interest on the House side, but that'll be suspended for someone else. And I hope one of you gets to see that succeed. I am still waiting on our organizational study and our market competitiveness study. I understand we're making progress. I had hoped we would see that launched. I'm hoping we'll see something soon. And finally with I've talked about the maintenance and operations and the formula alignment. And then CNS, long-term sustainability. This is going to be a problem that's with us. I think we have made some great strides, and we've put more attention on this than I think we've seen before. We still need more, and we won't solve this problem, but I think we need a direction. We need a plan, or at least a plan for a plan, and how we can continue to work forward with that. On academic progress, we continue to make progress academically, recovering from the dips that we saw since, remote learning in the pandemic. We did see a little slip in graduation rates this year, but we are continuing to make incremental progress in proficiency and test scores. But I really hope going forward, we'll find some better way to capture really the suitability, the better measure of what we mean by college and career readiness. Life is more than a test score. And we've seen amazing students come out of this district and do amazing things, whether it's college, whether it's entrepreneurs, whether it's in the military. And, I'm confident that we're producing a high-quality graduate that are out there giving back, being productive members of our community. And I'd love to find some way that we can better capture that. And I know the NCDPI is looking at some different ways to measure the student impact and student performance. And I hope we can look to them to see some ways that we could capture that in Wake County. So you've still got me for 2 more meetings, but this will be my last long address to close the meeting. So thank you all very much. I have enjoyed working with you in this position. I hope you feel that you've been able to make a difference, that you've been heard, and been able to raise issues that have been important to you. And with that, I'll conclude my remarks, and I'll entertain a motion in reference to closed session.
Chair, I move that we go into closed session to address the items that are on the agenda. Sorry, my computer died, so I can't pull it up, but the items that are referenced in our closed session. So to consider confidential personal information protected under GS 143-318.11A6 and 115C-319. Also to consult with the Board of Education attorney and preserve attorney-client privilege as provided into GS 143-318.11A3. And finally, to consult with the Board of Education attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege as provided in GS 143-318.11A3 due to current litigation, Wake County Board of Education versus HAS Properties, LLC.
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Rice. Mr. Hershey has dropped off, so we can return to a voice vote. All in favor of moving to closed session for the statutory reasons cited by your vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We will move into closed session. Thank you, everyone.